Sharon Nackett. Yes. Is this the library? Yes.
I don't know how they can even say. Say hi. Go for it.
Okay.
Go for
Okay. There's another one. Reload. All right. We got
There's a
plenty.
single one, and then this, she's a totally different number 9.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, what I'm gonna do, you'd asked me where I was.
That's pretty good.
Chile.
I don't plan on
Okay.
going there, so that's as close as I'm getting.
7 and 8.
All right, room.
No.
Ordered those.
His nameplate, is that what you're looking for?
You got his nameplate? Is it over there?
Oh, yeah, but I would prefer to be walking.
Can I roll a picture? Can I
Where's the speaker?
Oh, no, that's your fingerprints are all on it. Speak.
No, don't speak. It's good. Or with the
Hey,
speaker.
Art.
Packed house today.
That's not it, that's the plug.
It's not.
I don't know. Don't worry. Let me know when you're ready, Mayor.
Yes. He's not coming back.
I just read about that. He can't get off.
He's got an inner room too, so he's got no.
We shipped him out, and that's where he's going to be now.
I'm not ready.
Okay.
You gonna have to use your phone?
I got hard copy, buddy. It's 3 trees right here because of Frank.
I'm gonna let you use mine. Or...
Nuh-uh. I'm gonna tell this guy. Trees
Fur.
right here.
Arctic fur.
Forgot it already.
I forgot it already. Crusty.
Crusty.
Oh, yeah.
Did you say Arctic?
Arctic.
See? I ain't gonna know what to say. I'm gonna start just sending stuff.
Well, it has the buzzword in there.
Put my tie on. I'll tell you what.
We're all tireless.
Can I get one?
No, the order started because I was here Tom looked like a jerk. He was asking
Face back down. I will not say anything else stupid tonight. Last one I'm gonna say. Yes, that's what I was saying. It was a go. No, sir. That one. Thank you.
Did the mayor say he's gonna go down the line? 1, 2, 3. Is he gonna go right down the line? Is he gonna skip around?
No, he's gonna get the library up first,
No.
and then go. As far as I know, it's all straight.
Yes.
I know. Lose a seat right there, buddy. I'm gonna tell him too. There's a spot.
Yeah.
Chill now all of a sudden.
Josh,
Yes, sir.
Josh.
I'm coming by the way. No, I do not.
Oh, Josh,
Yes, sir.
Plaintive cry.
will you point this thing at the podium so I can see folks speaking?
Yep. Hang on.
Mine's on there.
He doesn't need to see them, they just.
And the lovely view of the sea.
That's the podium. You can see that, right?
Yes, that's fine.
All I see is the ceiling and,
As long as they
Just want to see his
see you.
football.
screen.
Okay, hang on.
Let's put him down here. But then the microphone.
I can move the mic.
If you unwrap it, I think it'll reach.
You see it?
No. Yes. He's kind of delayed.
Oh, there we go, right, that's it. There we go. Boy, you got a full house. Yeah, that's super.
Okay.
We're never gonna know when he talks.
Look, he's right there.
I know, but
That's all I can do. That's all I got.
all right, so you're up. Sandra, are we on air?
We're back to the ceiling.
No, you're not.
Frank, you're just gonna have to deal with it. Because we're starting. All right, we reconvene from recess into open session to act as deemed appropriate in city council's discretion at 6:36 PM for a consultation with legal counsel and possible action concerning any regular meeting agenda item.
No action?
B, consultation with legal counsel regarding internal operating procedures.
No action?
And C, discussion regarding in-house legal counsel.
No action.
All right, Sandra, please note, we now have 6 of our 7 council members, with Councilmember Bartholow absent this evening. If y'all would, please join me for the invocation, pledge allegiance, and the pledge of the Texas flag. Sorry, but you're up again.
Good. Let us pray. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you today for the ability to join together as a community, Lord, to discuss the items that are important to our city. Lord, we ask that you be with our council members tonight to give them wisdom, give them the ability to listen, to hear, and to discuss the items as they take action moving forward so that they can make decisions that will make our community better every single day, Lord. We just thank you for the opportunity of freedom, the opportunity to be here, and for all the many blessings you give us each and every day. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. You may be seated.
I know where to go. It's over there, so.
All right, citizen comments. In accordance with the Open Meetings Act, council is prohibited from acting or discussing, other than factual responses to specific questions, any items not on the agenda. All right. I recognize Kelly Tarver. If you would, please come to the podium, state your name and city of residence, and you will have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Kelly Tarver, and I live here in Lago Vista. I am here tonight to discuss the recent public notification of the city water boil that we happened. I was in the area of the water boil and was not notified at all. And as I understand it, the current system relies on a reverse 911 push through the police department, and it requires citizens to be registered at warrencentraltexas.org. And I had never heard of this until recently. And the reason why I see this as a flawed Plan A is that, one, it puts the responsibility on us, that we are having to get registered with an account to come and get these notifications. And secondly, with our elders having to depend on technology for them to be able to get their notifications. I'm sure you have done that before, tried to help an elder create an account. I do that. I have a club here in town that goes and helps. And one of our clients, I had to help her create an account to get vegetables delivered, and it took an hour. So we can't use that as a system to rely on to get the notification out to everyone, especially our elders, because they're the most susceptible to illness from contaminated water. So as I understand it, that failed this last time. The Warren Central Texas push didn't go out. Something happened. So Plan B was to go to Facebook. That was the Plan B. That was even a more limited reach of people. Plan A, Warren Central Texas, doesn't cover everyone. And then Facebook has even less of a reach. So my question was, we went right with Plan B when we should have gone left. And you used, not you guys, obviously, it was the municipal district, but you used more technology when the technology failed the first time. You used more technology whenever, the way I see it, we should have turned to humans, rolled up our sleeves, printed the flyers, got in our cars, and went and put them in mailboxes. If we had done that, and this happened, I believe in the evening, if we had done that when the system failed the first time, you print the flyers, get 5 people in a car, you put the flyers in mailboxes, we would have been done in a couple of hours. Everybody would have been notified. If that wasn't an option, we could have gotten a phone call list and gotten 4 or 5 people on the phone to communicate and ensure that every single person is not using potentially contaminated water. Also, another option could have been putting signage at intersections, like the water restriction signs that we put whenever there's water restrictions. We know about it. We need to get some water boil signs somewhere in the storage so that we can put those out onto the streets.
All right, your time's up.
I just ask that we be smarter about this in an emergency situation. I need to know that my city's going to tell me when something happens.
Thank you. All right, that is all that I have signed up for the citizen comments section. So we will move into our items of community interest. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.0415, the City Council may report on any of the following items: expressions of thanks, gratitude, and condolences, information regarding holiday schedules, recognition of individuals, reminders regarding city council events, reminders regarding community events, and health and safety announcements. To start, we have a pet clinic this Friday that will It starts at 7 a.m. and goes till 4 p.m. It'll be right out here in the parking lot. The Youth Advisory Committee organized this. They brought in Emancipet to do healthy pet vaccines and medicines and stuff like that, and to do low-cost spay and neuter. And I don't know, I think they've filled up on their spay and neuter slots at this time, but we do have the pet clinic going on this Friday. We have, as you've probably saw in your seats, we have our first concert in our spring concert series, Ross Ellis, on February 29th at the Lago Vista High School Performing Arts Center. That should be a good time. I hope everybody will attend. Let's see. Notice, early morning concrete pour, 3 a.m. So for those of y'all who are out roaming the city at 3 a.m. on Thursday, February 13th, over on Country Club Drive, you will see some workers pouring concrete at our wastewater treatment plant. City of Lago Vista is expanding the wastewater treatment plant located adjacent to Country Club Drive beginning at 3 a.m. on February 13th. Due to the large amount of concrete required to build the new clarifier, several truckloads of concrete are needed. To avoid traffic delays and improper curing of the slab, crews will start early to ensure it is poured properly. And if you have any more needing more information, you can always call City Hall or go to our website. Anything else?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
on Saturday, the 15th, from 11 until 2, the Lago Vista Lions Club will be doing their annual Chili Fest. This will be at the middle school cafeteria. These are funds that the Lions use to supply income to our many charities. And everyone that comes out gets a good bowl of chili or a Frito pie or a hot dog. And there'll be pastries to purchase. We'd like to have everybody come out and join us for that.
Mr. Mayor, on Saturday, this Saturday, the Chamber of Commerce is doing their casino night at K Oaks. So it's a good time. If you've never been to their casino night, they do a nice job on the casino night. So that's Saturday at K Oaks.
I was going to be a blackjack dealer, but when they found out I didn't have any talent, they kicked me out. It's a tough crowd. Something about professional dealers. I don't know why they would do professionals, but I tried. There for the team.
We have, y'all may know we have been working on building an app for our city to try and alleviate some of the issues like we've had in the woman that was just speaking earlier with our notifications and just being able to become more accessible to the city. We've been working on building an app. We actually started beta testing that today. But what that app, one of the things that app will do will allow us to do push notifications. Yes, it is something where the user has to go and sign up, just like the reverse 911 system. But it is just one more tool that we could use to push notifications to the citizens. Just so y'all know, we used our city website, we used Facebook, we did the reverse 911. It was, I believe it was on the radio. What else? Anyway, we used about 5 or 6 different methods to try and get the word out about the water leak. We didn't just rely on one system, but we tried to use as many as we had, every system that we had at our hand to try and get the word out. But we are working on improving that. Things like that, it's hard to get to everybody, so we are working on it. And I have some representatives from the Friends of the Library that I believe would like to have an item of community interest that they would like to talk about? No, do I need to?
Somebody's going to have to get at the microphone.
My name is Bruce Morris.
Bruce,
With Friends of
Bruce.
the Library.
Could you talk in the microphone so they can hear you at home?
I thought I could yell loud enough.
No.
My name is Bruce Morris. I am a member of the Friends of the Library. And as you probably know already, that the whole purpose of our existence is to fund the library with items that they need. We do books, magazines, computer programs, furniture, computers, and that's why I'm here tonight, for the computers. If you've been in the library recently and using our computers and one of them's crashed, well, you're one of the unlucky ones. If it hasn't crashed, you're one of the lucky ones. So it's time to replace all of our computers. So Friends of the Library are presenting our library through our director, Jan, a check for $5,007.58 for 11 new computers. So when we get these all in and all the programming on it, come back and use them.
Great job.
Thank you very much.
Jan, if you use that check, you can buy about 400 tickets for the concert. So if you want to cash it in now, we'll just go ahead and get you those seats.
The great thing, it's erasable, so then we can use
Yeah, we
it
can
again.
just put it in our...
There you go. Scalp them.
Thank you.
All right, any council members have anything else? No? Is there anybody in the audience that has anything, community interest, they'd like to share at this time?
Any more big checks? Oh, here's one.
My name is Dennis Kemp. I live at 21405 Patton Avenue off of Boggy. And I have a question. It's basically, are we using the right machinery for cutting these ditches? Because you don't use a pitching wedge
All right,
to
sir.
put.
All right, I'm
Because
going to
they're-
shut you off right there because we already passed the citizen comment section. We're into the
I just
area
asking.
of community interest right now. Thank you. All right, we're now going to go into, we're going to skip ahead in your program, and we're going to go to agenda item number 9. Agenda item number 9 is an action item. It is discussion, consideration, and possible action concerning the site plan for the library expansion project by Gophers LLC. Whoop, I'm out of order. Hang on. All right, so City Council has approved the contract for Gophers LLC to complete our library and City Hall expansion project. Council requested to review the site plan, floor plan, and elevations before a notice to proceed was issued, and staff has presented that to us tonight, and it is open for action from City Council. Is there any questions or comments?
Mayor, if I may, I had an email back, and since Councilor Robbins is on, I want to be able to relay a conversation that he and I had. He had requested that council consider having a dialogue back with the Library Advisory Board on the item. And so, not knowing how well he's able to communicate through there, I want to pass that back to the council, that was his request at the beginning of the week.
Yeah, Josh, can Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yeah. Has there been any additional information passed out in the last week? And do we have a recommendation from either the Library Advisory Board or the subcommittee?
Mayor, one thing I can add to that question is we don't have additional information, but the Library Advisory Board Chair has signed up to comment tonight and to address the council. And so she would be up after council.
Super, thanks.
All right. Well, if nobody else on the council has any questions or comments, the council recognizes Sharon Makett.
Hi, I'm Sharon Mackett, and I live at 2606 Franklin Cove. And I am the chair of the Library Advisory Board, as I have been for about 5 or 10 years. I don't know, it seems like forever. But I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the Library Advisory Board and on behalf of the library. In the last year, our front door has opened over 21,000 times to people that want to use the library. There are boys and girls who come in with their parents or grandparents. There's students who use the library because there is no library in the schools, as you probably know, at least in the high school. You know, we got board residents coming in, you know, to get a copy of 50 Shades of Grey. We got old ladies on walkers, you know, like my own 91-year-old mother that uses the library. The library workers, they know everybody's name. They invite them in. Everybody is welcome at the library. We've had 435 new members this year. There's over 2,300 library card holders. 3,000 volunteer hours have gone into the library. You just saw a check for $5,000. That's this year. Last year, Friends of the Library gave us $16,900. Residents saved $408,000 in the last 12 months because they get their books. They borrow DVDs, CDs. They use the computers. They borrow audiobooks. So as our population doubles, so does library usage. We provide information and entertainment. There's free Wi-Fi. You can search for work, you can research vacation locations, heck, you can play video games at the library. Artists display their work. People run in just to use the bathroom, really. The library is a busy place. And as the needs of our community grow, so do the needs of the library. As the community grows, the library grows. Members of the Library Advisory Board and the library staff have participated in this expansion effort since the beginning. We have given the city our wish list. We have met with the city manager, architect, engineer. We have attended library design seminars. We have been included every step of the way in this expansion project. And we are ready for you to move it forward, the next step. We want our library, and we can't start work until we all agree to move forward. So that's why I'm here today. Gotcha. Before you is an action item. Please take action. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, we now recognize Dale Mitchell.
It's a new thing. You speak, you leave. You speak, you leave. It's a new thing.
Dale Mitchell, 20908. I'm not trained in theater, but I will tell you this. We were quite pleased to see for the first time kind of a site plan and some renderings by architects of what the conception is for this expansion. The one thing I would like to urge you to do, and I've done that before, is to say, put the building as far back on the lot as you can. And I'm proposing that you do adjacent with the line that you have here on the City Hall. And so that allows more room out in front for the courtyard and for landscaping. Now, I know there are probably some things back here, like a 20-foot alley or a 5-foot right-of-way and things like that, but you already have the precedence of this building being at this spot here. And if you could line up the rest of the extensions back there, that will leave more space out in front. But we're very happy to see that you have the conceptions down, and on a design building, there are several iterations that you go through as you get started to try to finalize what the final design is, and we look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, the plan is, if you're looking at that green space out there where KLVB has started their paths and the place for the statue and stuff, and where the stage is, none of it will be disturbed. So we will leave that green space open up front there. All right, that is all I have signed up on that agenda item. Is there anybody else who would like to? All right. This time it is open for action. I'll accept a motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we accept the site plan and that we get to work on this and get it done.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Aye.
That was an aye.
Yep. All right, motion carries unanimous. All right, we're going to skip further ahead in your agenda. And we are going to go to discussion items. We're going to discuss item number 14 at this time. It's discussion concerning ESD 1 and ESD 7 expenses and fees related to the construction costs of Fire Station 101 on Bronco Lane and Fire Station 103 on Loman Ford Road. And if you'll hold on just a second.
Go ahead, Mayor, sorry.
All right, as we know, ESD 1, ESD 7, I'll refer to them as ESD 1 from here on, is building 2 fire stations within the city limits of Lago Vista. The associated deposits, expenses, and fees payable to the city for required services totaled $124,868.07. The procedure for requesting waivers normally starts with a request being brought to the city council for consideration prior to any permits being pulled or fees being paid. City council is the only body capable of granting any type of waiver. Staff members do not have that authority and cannot waive any fees or costs. Therefore, at the time, none of the associated fees and costs were waived because it was not at that time brought to council for consideration. Of that total cost, about $16,000 is a cost to the city that our staff has performed, and as some people have said, can be looked at as a double taxation on the citizens. The remaining $108,000 is deposits and fees, so that is something that the ESD is paying. City staff is not performing the work, and therefore would not be considered a double taxation on the citizens. Of that $108,000, $81,840 are impact fees. According to our state statutes and laws, only our school districts are exempt from impact fees. However, the city council does have the ability to waive impact fees if they so choose. At this point, ESD 1 has come to city council to request a refund for the deposits, expenses, and fees that they have already paid. That total is approximately $83,500. And they are also requesting a refund of the remaining $61,000 unpaid balance. Council previously has approved a payment plan for the outstanding balance. Currently, ESD 1 has not signed that plan and is yet to make a payment, but they're looking for assistance with that unpaid balance at this time. ESD 1 is also requesting assistance or options on 2 future expenses, and I will have the chief address these here in a minute. They are an oversized meter and a water line. I believe it's a water line tie-in. So what we're here tonight is to do tonight is discuss whether we would be, as a council, be willing to refund all or a portion of the approximately $83,500 already paid, to waive all or a portion of the approximately $61,000 that remains unpaid, and whether the city is able to offer assistance or options with the remaining projects that we will be referencing. Tonight is just for discussion. From here, we will go back. We will get with staff, and then we will bring this back again on 20 February for possible action. And at this time, I will turn it over to Chief Donnie Norman.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, City Council, City Manager. If you don't mind, just a couple little minor things. I don't really know where to put it in, but the State Fire Marshal came and presented us a plaque for all 3 cities that we serve. They would only make one appearance. The City of Lago Vista got a plaque for our ISO Class 2. So I would like to present that to the city on behalf of the State Fire Marshal. I didn't want him to come to one city and then not go to the other, so I said I would just hand deliver him. So,
well, thank you.
Thank you. So
I'll hold that up so everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Just a little bit of background on that. There are about 50,000 communities in the United States that are rated. We're one of 1,800 as a Class 2 or better, and in the state of Texas, there's about 2,700, and we're one of 1,400 as a Class 2 or better. In addition to any savings that you might see on your insurance, what it's done for our department as a whole, if you look at the statistics in 2016, our average response time was 16 minutes and 28 seconds for priority 1 and 2 calls that came into the district. In 2017, we were looking at 16 minutes and 25 seconds. In 2018, we were 14 minutes and 48 seconds. Again, these are all priority 1 fire and EMS calls. After putting in the new infrastructure, putting in a temporary fire station, for 2019 all the way through the last quarter, average response time was 7 minutes and 41 seconds. So that's what it's done. To bring one more point home, in the Casey building in front of where the fire station is going to be built on Bronco Lane, we have an ambulance that's running out there. We don't have a fire truck there, but we have an ambulance that's stationed in the Casey building. It's problematic to put a fire truck there. So with that 7 minute and 40 seconds, if you break it down, fire and EMS for the district that's being covered by that, our EMS responses are 8 minutes and 28 seconds. But our fire responses are 12 minutes and 24 seconds. So putting a fire truck there, that's the impact that we will see by reducing response times once we get that fire truck up and running for that particular area. But even with that 1224 on our fire side, we're still hitting 7 minutes and 40 seconds district-wide, covering 178 square miles. So if you wonder where your tax dollars are going, that's where they're going. That's where they're being spent, is to improve those response times. And we do have a paramedic on every single fire apparatus that we have. So when a fire truck shows up at your house, it has everything that our ambulances have except for a cot. So very important, especially with the citizens that we serve out here, whether it's recreational people, the elderly, or we have a lot of youth moving into the area. So anyway, I wanted to share that data with you. Again, and one other thing, the emergency management falls onto the fire department. I will tell you the city manager is really good about pushing out these notices to boil water. I never thought about going door to door with flyers, but I assure you that going forward, I'll take responsibility for it. That's what you pay me to do. So we put it on social media. We push it out every way we think, but I never thought about door to door signs, but we will take care of that. So I'm sorry that you got the blame, but the city manager has done his job and pushed it to me, and we thought we were pushing it out properly, so we'll work on that. I apologize that notice didn't get out to you. So
you're not going to ask me to go with you, are you?
Absolutely. Well, I just got to take you off the hook because we got
Team
the
effort.
notice. Yeah. So we'll make sure that we do the door-to-door thing. So anyway, as you all know, we had the creation of ESD7 that added about $2 million to our budget for the fire department. It wasn't a large amount of money when you look in totality, but even with the $2 million that was added to our budget, we're still one of the smallest budgets in Travis County. We serve the largest district, 178 square miles, 3 cities that are within our district, and we're the 4th busiest department in the county. So we stay pretty busy. The money is still tight. When I came here in 2014, we didn't have a single fire truck that could make it to the calls. Their average age of fire trucks were 25 years old. A ladder truck's $1.2 million, and a pumper $600,000, an ambulance is $300,000. We replaced all that apparatus, and I think it shows in our ISO classification, our response times, of where the money's going. The station budgets were tight. As I told you before, we were told that you cannot build these 2 fire stations for $7.4 million, but that's all the money that we could borrow as a district. And I was adamant that we were going to build these fire stations and we were going to come in under budget. And we've held the line. We've had some things that's happened with retaining walls and French drains and everything you have. And right now, we're still there. We can complete the fire stations. I will throw in that our contractor cannot complete the project. The citizens are not on the hook. We're bonded. So we're going through that. But it was a 56-year-old company, 2 generations, impeccable credit references. I mean, everything about it was perfect. He'd built 20-something fire stations, city halls, schools, and for whatever reason, he can't finish the project. So that's another delay. But we can absolutely pay the money. In fact, I do have the contract here tonight with the first payment, if that's where we go. And I respect the decision of the council, even though we're not making a decision tonight. But the money would come from replacement of some apparatus to add to the coffers. And I would rather not do that. I would rather stay on our vehicle replacement plan. I would like to keep on buying the emergency medical supplies and things that we're doing to improve our services for the citizens, because the pace of our call volume, I mean, Mayor, you know that working down in dispatch, our call volume increases every year. We're one of the fastest growing districts, but unfortunately a rooftop has to come in and we're 2 years down the road before we even see any revenue for a rooftop. Our average household pays us $500 a year for fire and EMS service, and we're the only entity in the state of Texas that's got a double cap. We're capped at 10 cents on 100 in our property tax, and now Senate Bill 2 has capped us at the 3% growth. So we are double capped on our ability to grow. So even if the citizens said, hey, let's give them another penny, 2 pennies, whatever, to make things work, they can't do it. There's no legal mechanism for us to grow the amount of revenue that our district gets. So we have to work within a budget. If we had the money, I wouldn't be before you. But if there's any relief that can be given by the city council to not have to pay some of these fees, it would be helpful to the district. It would allow us to proceed forward without taking money from our maintenance and operating budget to offset some of these fees. The water meter, I understand why we want a water meter over there. There's a huge amount of water loss within the district. But I think there's a more economical way to do it than to put this large 8-inch water meter on our fire hydrant. We can just, like we're doing currently, use a portable meter, put it on the hydrant, and we'll measure the water that way. And I think it accomplishes the same goal. It's tens of thousands of dollars cheaper to do it that way. So I would ask that we consider not putting, a large high-dollar water meter in the ground, that we just use a portable meter on fire hydrants when we train with it. So we will adhere to the rules and log the water and let you read the meters. The other part of it is if we can't get any relief, or if we do get relief on some of the fees, we're told it's some $30,000 or $40,000 for us to run the water and sewer line under the road for Loman Ford Road to make that connection. Maybe the city can help us with some of that. I don't expect it to be for free, but I think y'all have the resources to be able to do it. There's some things that the ESD can do in kind, back to the city, and we've done that for years. Lago Fest and some of the events we've never charged the city, and nor do we want to start doing that. So it's not a one-way street. I think that we can continue to help. I think our citizens want us to work together, and so I don't want to start billing you every time that we have an event, a golf tournament, or whatever it is, 4th of July, and we're always there. We always pay overtime for our personnel, or we have people volunteer. So I think there's ways that we can work together. I'm not asking for a one-way street, but any relief that the city could give on the fees and some of the things that we need to complete these fire stations, I think we can see that 5 more minutes coming off the response times is very important. I'm sure everybody's seen the article came out last week, about the wildland guys came from California to tell us our topography out here were dangerous. That was no surprise to me. I mean, I've been saying that since 2014. We live in a very dangerous area, so I'm not sure why they paid people from California to tell us that, but so they did. But we have 19 people on duty every day if they're all here. If everybody's at work, we have 19 people covering 178 square miles. The insurance service and consultants said we should have 32. So we have a third of the people. If people are off on vacation, about a third of the staff that's on duty every day. And we make it work. We cover it. In Austin, if you have a house fire, you get 30 people and 6 fire trucks in 8 minutes. In ESD1, you get 5 fire trucks and 16 or 17 people in 10 minutes, and your next nearest help's coming 30 minutes away. So, and we need to improve that. We need to continue to add resources, out here. If we have a house fire going on and we get one of these wildland fires, the outcome is not going to be good. I mean, I don't want to scare people in the audience, but one emergency is all we can handle. And I'm not talking about a routine medical call, but if we have all of our resources tied up on some big event and that second event comes, your help's coming from Austin. That's where it's coming, and it's a long time out. So my point in that is any dollars that we can save, any help that the city can give us, I can use that money to help improve services for the district. So any considerations would be appreciated.
Right. Thank you. Questions?
On the tax that we're paying, is there a sunset clause on that by chance?
There's not. So, and there would have to be a constitutional amendment to change the way the ESDs are funded. If you understand, going back, the ESDs were established over 2 decades ago, and the funding mechanism was put into place to help rural volunteer fire departments to buy equipment. It was never meant for us to be municipal fire departments like we are. So the 10 cents on 100 was established to buy equipment, and then came along with the EMS side of it. We used to be fire departments when I first started. Right. Then we became an EMS service, but still the same 10 cents. They added a whole new role to us. And then it got to be where volunteerism wasn't high, where people weren't volunteering, or the service demand was so high where volunteers wasn't cutting it and the response times weren't good. So now we're starting to have to hire people. And we still had that same 10 cents on 100. That's where the ESD7 came in. But keep in mind, in the state of Texas, the average municipal fire department is 27 cents on 100 is what it costs to operate it. Our neighbors, Leander, Cedar Park, are right there, and we're doing it on 20 cents on 100. Plus, I had to make up for 10 or 12 years of neglect that the fire department had with all the aging apparatus, stations not being in the right place, and we were not a well-trained fire department. We are well-trained today. I will tell you that we perform at a high level, a paramedic level, and our people are some of the highest trained in the county. I can say that boastfully, and the data supports it. I can show you where to look at where it is. So it shouldn't be there. The citizens should be able to decide how much they want to fund their emergency services, but the ESD7 was kind of a backdoor way to raise the taxes, but we'd had no tax increase since the establishment of the ESD, and they were struggling when I got here.
Lago has paid you since 2017 around $6 million.
So we're about $1.9 million for this budget year is what we're getting for the city of Lago Vista.
Okay, folks, this 20-cent tax, I just want to go over what is and what we are facing. And if you look at your tax bill, would go in the Travis County Appraisal District. There's an item for taxable value on your homes. The ESD takes their 20 cents off of 100% of that taxable amount. And the city discounts it about 20%. So as our property value goes, even with the rollback, our property values grow and our taxable value grows, that grows proportionally. I think we've grown by 9% a year. Maybe this cap might help us all. But in a 3-year period of time, we're close to paying $6 million. And it's only going to go up and continue. I just want that this is something we can handle now. It's not through the city budget, it's not through anything else, it's through each individual homeowner in town. It goes directly to them. But if it continues to grow proportionately, if you do your time value calculation, we could have some very serious numbers. So right now, about what you pay to Travis County entities, ESD1, Travis, and the hospital district, is pretty close to what you pay to the city of Lago Vista. So it's something you need to be aware of. Yeah, we're committed. We want to do this, but I'm concerned that there's no cap on how long it goes.
Well, let me put things in perspective because I think your statements aren't painting the whole picture. So in the city of Lago Vista,
just what is for us.
Yeah, so let me just talk about Lago Vista alone and not anything else, any other part of ESD1. You have 11 firefighter paramedics on duty every day. That takes 33 people. You have 2 ladder trucks at $1.2 million, 2 brand-new stations at $7.4 million, 2 ambulances at $600,000, 2 pumpers at $1.2 million for the 2 of them. You can't pay the salary for 33 people in a year for $2 million. You can't get close to that for $2 million.
What's your debt load for those trucks and all?
Yeah, so we owe about $14 million for the trucks and stations. But taking the debt aside, the 33 firefighter paramedics that are stationed only in Lago Vista, not Jonestown, not anywhere else, you have 33 people that are stationed here that's committed to the city of Lago Vista, and this is the drain on the calls. The calls are generated from Lago Vista. You account for almost close to 50%. Last year, we answered 2,500 something calls, over 1,000, just over 1,000 were in Lago Vista. We had 47 fires in Lago Vista last year. So if the firefighters were making $50,000 a year with pay and benefits, the $2 million that Lago's paying wouldn't even touch the payroll, let alone utilities, fuel, trucks, or anything. So we are well underfunded. So if the $2 million doubled, it would just about get to be what we're providing in Lago anywhere else in the state of Texas.
Yeah, but it's on each individual in town.
So our average homeowner pays $400 a year for fire and EMS services.
I don't know that figure.
It's a fact. If you take our district-wide, our average property value is about $207,000, give or take. Each one of them paying 20 cents on 100, that's $400. That's our average taxpayer pays $400 for fire and EMS.
And it increases. All I want to know is make everybody aware that that is the situation we are in. I don't have a problem paying for it. I don't have a problem with the fire department. I understand the need. But you need to understand, we have a situation with the citizens of Lago Vista where it's gone up every year since 2017.
And the city tax doesn't raise?
No, this goes straight to you.
Well, I understand, but does the city tax not go to the city?
I don't want to talk about city tax. tax. No, that's 5 years. Okay. Or 9 years, whatever it is.
Yeah.
We've kept it the same. And of course, with what's also impacting you and us is the new homes. That's coming online. That's another income stream, everything else. I'm just want to let everybody know that this is where our money is. And these fees and charges, Chief, started from the get-go when the permit was let. It was never paid for from day one. So these things have accumulated over time that I think if we'd have paid them as we went along, we wouldn't be in that situation.
The last time I was before you, again, there were assumptions made, and I'll take full responsibility. I had a whole different city council up here. Not a single one of you were here. I had a different city manager. I'm not putting blame. I think that everybody's doing their jobs to protect the citizens, but there were assumptions that were made under the previous councils, and I don't accept y'all to honor or get in the minds of anybody. Again, if we're looking for blame, I'll take the blame that things were not done the way that maybe they should have been. But we are where we are. And I don't want to continue to look backwards because we're going to go backwards. So we're here. If you're looking for a scapegoat or someone to blame your fire chief.
I don't want a scapegoat, Chief. I think you've got problems. I think we have problems.
Right.
I'd like to see it work. I don't have a problem with that. I just don't see how either of us are going to get out of a predicament of their,
Well, yeah, the only way that we're going to be able to do it is to work together and to do everything we possibly can, not talking about this specifically, but anytime that we can work together and cut costs for the citizens, whether we do some event for free, whether we loan you a piece of equipment or whatever it is, anything that we can do to make it less costly to the citizens, I would love nothing more than to reduce the budget. I mean, we know what we pay in taxes. I pay my fair share just like everyone else. I'm not exempt. So I'm pretty conservative and I don't like taxes, but I'm on the other side of the fence, and we struggle to get those 7-minute and 40-second response times. It's not easy for us to do it. Maybe there'll be a day that the budget, I mean, we're not going to continue to tax people, but we're a long way. We're a long way from this ESD being funded where it needs to be funded in comparison to our other ESDs in Travis County. I mean, I could give you statistics, but again, our budget, we're the largest district, the 4th busiest, and we're the 2nd lowest budget of the entire county. So
how long is the debt load?
20 years on the stations, 10 years on the apparatus.
So you're paying 1.4 a year on the apparatus?
approximately?
No, our total is about 1.5 for both of them. So, yeah, that's our current payout for debt.
You don't have any more you're gonna incur. I mean, you've got the equipment you need.
Well, so no, I mean, apparatus is constantly going to have to be, turned out. A fire truck is good for 10 years frontline, 10 years reserve. So, as soon as one is paid off, you go get another one. We still have fire trucks that are 95s. We still have some 2001. And then our newest apparatus was bought in 2015. So we're already at a 5-year life cycle. So it's going to be a long time before we can be, I don't want to dwell on the city of Austin. The city of Austin goes down there and they need a fire truck, they write a check and get it. We don't have that luxury. When a fire truck breaks, we work on them ourselves to try to make it go. And again, we're not apparatus poor, but it's not like it's a one-time thing. It's done and we don't have to worry about it. In 5 years, we're going to replace 3 engines and another ladder truck if we're going to keep up with the standards and make sure they can go. And we have 2 trucks as we sit today. We got a 95 and a 2001 that I really don't want to rely on, but we're in those trucks occasionally when we have to go into reserves. So it's going to be past by retirement. I can assure you of that before the budget is going to be able to fund this emergency services district the way it should.
Is your contractor at that bond, do you think that will be paid easily? Or are you gonna have to fight that? What's the
It appears, so we had 2 bonds that we purchased. I thought it was expensive at the time, but now looking back on it, it was well worth the money. So we had a payment bond that guaranteed our subcontractors would be paid. Those are being paid, as I understand it, from our subcontractors. We've called the bond the performance bond. The insurance company's been very forthright, and they're working with our architect to select a new contractor to do it. So I can't speak for them, but the dialogue is positive, and it looks like they're going to move on. So we're only about $1.6 million from completion. So, and we have a lot of that money that's held back. So there's only a few $100,000 that the previous contractor was probably misjudged some of the cost to do the station. And I don't think we were the contributing factor. They're doing a large project in Burnett County. They had a lot of stuff going on. So who knows what happened with them, but I feel like that we're going to be fine.
Do you think there'll be monies needed that we will have to pay to complete those?
No, so we had a bond for the entire project. So the bond amount that we took was the $7.4 million for the entire project, and that we were pretty good on the paperwork. So I do not believe, unless there's something else that would come along that's a change order, but I think we've addressed all those. We're past the point of having any more surprises, I believe. The station on Loma Ford Road, it's 85% complete. If we had water, sewer, some tile inside, a CO and some of that, we're there. The one on Bronco Lane, and that's really the station I need the most, we're probably 70% complete on it. It looks like it's a lot farther along, but the reality is it's not. They've been doing a lot of work inside that wasn't done at this station. So they're I believe that they would both be open by summer unless something happens with the bonding company that's out of my control on the completion of the stations. But there's nothing that's scaring me at this point to think that we're going to have any trouble getting them completed.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Donnie, I never ever questioned your loyalty to provide services to Lago Vista. You've always been there. I got that. I'm trying to understand, because it seems like everything that is involved here that's on this paper is involved in the construction of the buildings of the 2 fire stations, okay? Now, you're correct. We were not involved in those impact fees of $81,840. That was a previous council. But I don't understand, and Josh or someone's going to have to explain, you say state statute says that no one's exempt except the school district. So I don't understand, how can we waive the impact fee once we've selected the impact?
So the statute is written, the way it's written, it excludes the ISDs in the statute. However, it does not address any other entities. Therefore, as a council, we have the authority or the power to say whether we want to refund or exempt anybody else. The only thing that we would have to consider is...
but that would have been done at the time.
It would have been best if it had come to us prior to anything.
Okay.
But it didn't, so now we're reconsidering whether we want to go back and, refund or waive what the unpaid balance is. The only thing with the impact fees is the impact fees are spread out, to all future projects and stuff like that, and there's an algorithm that's used to determine what each person or each developer pays in impact fees. So this $81,840 is something that's it's not made up by the taxpayers. It is made up by other developers and construction companies coming in and paying their fees. So what we have to look at is, do we waive these fees knowing that it's going to have an impact on the future water and wastewater projects? But it is not something that's going to come directly, out of the tax dollars.
Okay. And the 61,000 that was, and you brought us to 61,000, and that's where we came up with where we were going to allow $12,500 over a 5-year period to be paid. And that was the only thing that you brought to us on as a council, if I'm correct on that.
So far.
Okay.
So far.
So why instead of waiving fees and going backwards, you're asking for $124,000, correct? Is that what you're asking for?
Whatever the fees were. So if that's the total figure.
Well, I mean, the total figure shows $124,868. I mean, and you're asking us to help you with the water line, and why don't we just sit down together and look at how much it's going to cost for us and you to put a water line in, and to portable meters versus a regular meter, and just analyze the whole situation and figure out how we can help each other and meet somewhere in the middle.
I'm all for that.
And that is the purpose of this discussion item.
Okay.
Is I wanted to bring this out so the public can see everything that we're discussing, get it out in the open, and from here we will go back, we will schedule a meeting, and staff and everybody will sit down and see what all the options are, and hopefully we can have it done so that on 20 February, the next council meeting, we can bring this back and make a final decision at that time.
Yeah, I just think it's a better way of looking at it versus we're going back and waiving stuff. We need to just see, this is your shortfall, let's figure out how to overcome the shortfall and not compare all these past things that I didn't have anything to do with.
Right. Well, and we've taken several stabs or several look at this to try to come to some kind of a compromise. Again, we could pay the fees. I have the check with me tonight. If that's where we were going with this, we could pay the full amount. I'm not saying that the ESD can't do it, but it would not come out of the money that we have budgeted to build these stations. It's going to come out of our maintenance and operating, and something else on the other side that is important to the citizens is not going to get replaced, or we're not going to be able to expand that service. So again, I'm not putting that at the feet of the city council. That's not your problem, but we protect the same citizens. So I'm just hoping that we can do something to not put such a blow onto the ESD that we can continue to grow and provide the services and replace apparatus and equipment that we need. So I'm just looking for something somewhere in the middle. If it's $124,000 that we have to pay versus $125,000, well, I got $1,000. So whatever that figure is, obviously zero would be where I would like to start, and you'd probably like to start at $125,000. But I think there's something there in the middle, and the money's not going to give me a pay raise. The money's not going to give any of my firefighters pay raise. We're going to provide services to the citizens that we are all sworn to protect. And that's all I want to do, is be able to provide the services. And if we can do something jointly on this and look at something that we feel like is in the best interest of our community, that the money would be better spent on whatever that is, I would like to have that dialogue like we've had in all the time I've been here. We have a great relationship. Sometimes things get spun out of control, and and I don't want the citizens to think that we don't. I mean, anything that ever happens in this city, we communicate. We make sure it happens or gets mitigated, and we work well together. This is probably the only snag in my 6 years of being your fire chief that we've come up against. And again, I'll take the blame, but I had a lot of dialogue with previous councils, and I don't want to dwell on it because I don't want to say the wrong thing here, but there was just a different mentality. And so, but I'll take the responsibility for all of it, why we got where we are, so.
Anyone else on the council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I am definitely for doing what we can to make this work. The main thing I'm hearing from everybody in town is they just want the stations done.
That's all I want.
Everybody wants them finished. So I definitely think that we can work something out. My thought is that we could do away with, at least with half of these impact fees. The impact fees are basically something that comes to the city to allow us to cover expansion and increases in our services that we have to provide to our citizens. Basically, you're building a fire station, you're going to be basically closing a fire station. Your Allegiance fire station is not going to have near the drain or the effect on our system that it's having right now.
Right.
You don't have a whole bunch of firefighters in there. They're not taking showers, using the facilities. You're not washing fire trucks in there.
Correct.
There's going to be a considerable drop in what comes out of that. And so, to my mind, we could definitely go back on at least half of these fees, or the fees that would go for the Loman station, because you're taking away the impact of one place for the impact on another place, and I don't see a justification in paying for it in two spots. I did have a question. I know you're still looking at an 8-inch line. Does it have to be an 8-inch line?
It does. I mean, the lines, so understand the way that it's designed, that we have one pipe that goes into that station on Loman Ford Road. On that pipe is 2 fire hydrants. So you need to have the large line to do it. And then off the 8-inch line spends the service for the building, for showers and so on and so forth.
Okay.
What we would like to do is have the 8-inch line to not have that big meter on it and just put a water meter that meters the water that's used in the station for showers and whatever else, washing
Whatever
fire
else.
trucks, if you will.
Okay.
And I don't mind metering the water. That's not my point. I just don't want to pay for a big vault and a big meter to put down there. And then, if our building catches on fire, are we going to pay for that water? If we fill up our fire trucks at that station for a fire across the street, are we going to pay for that water? So
Well, I don't think
What about
anybody's.
the training facility?
the training facility does not use, it's all electronic. So the heat, the smoke, and everything about that is by electronics that's done. So it'll be a limited amount of water that we spray over there. Spraying water really has no value in our training purposes of what we do. So I'm not going to tell you we're not going to spray water, but I will tell you that any water we spray, we will put it on the portable meter and we will let you know what we used. If you charge us for it, so be it. I mean, that's fine.
What I'm still wondering about, it's my understanding that all that the state requires as far as your hydrants, your fire meters, is a 6-inch line.
Well, and that would definitely, be sufficient. I mean, it reduces the flow, and we wanted those fire hydrants to be hot. But I don't think going from an 8-inch to a 6-inch water meter is probably going to change the amount of money. But I see where you're going.
It's not only going to change the cost of the meter, it changes the cost of all the pipe that goes to those hydrants.
Well, that pipe
Because
is in.
the 6 and the 8,
yeah,
there's
that's
a
all.
considerable difference.
That's all in. So that everything is piped to the street. So all that
so you've
all that
already
is
got all
already
that
in there.
done.
Yeah, the pipe is ran to the street. We just have to do one of two things at the street: put a meter in, put a vault and a meter, an 8-inch meter, which is costly, and then connect it to the city, or connect it to the city and put the meter at the building and only meter the water that goes into the building, and have an agreement that any water we use for training, we will use a portable meter. If we use water for fire suppression, we won't meter the water, but we'll let you know, hey, we put this fire out and we use 500 gallons of water or whatever that may be. So
that water line serves a huge portion of Lago Vista, not just the fire station. So
Not just the
that
fire
8-inch is going to be a requirement for the fire loop.
Right.
For the city. That requirement is not because of that fire station.
Okay.
Didn't we research the cost of meters?
Yeah, the actual meter itself is not necessarily all that expensive. It's the building the vault and the construction and all that that pushes the cost up to it.
Yeah, when we took the meter out, we got I believe, Lance is not here, but I believe we got a $24,000 credit when we took that out from Lance's Plumbing. So that was the initial credit that we got when we bought it, and then we put it back. So it's costly for the meter. I mean, and again, I understand the rationale behind it. I'm not arguing with the rationale, but if I can take a $3,000 portable meter and accomplish the same goal that was going to be accomplished with the whatever the cost is of the 8-inch meter, I would ask that let's don't spend that money to spend it someplace more wisely than to put it on our 8-inch line. So
Okay, and then the water line that you have to get to hook this up is on the other side of the road, so you've got to cut the street to get to it.
that's my understanding. And
Okay.
the timing, again, Mr. City Manager can probably speak better than me. The timing may be good in the fact that you have the other construction. The gas station's going in over there. I understand there's going to have to be some utility work done there, so maybe it can be done at the same time and cut costs. I'm not sure how that works, but we've got to get on the other side of the road or run pipe all the way down to the high school. And neither one of them are
Really good ideas.
no, they're not. I mean, it's money. All of it is money. And so I have a lot of things. I have time, patience, and knowledge, but I don't have a lot of money. So, yeah.
Arch?
Chief, I have one question for you. You don't just service our area here. You also service Point Venture, and you also service Jonestown.
Correct.
Have you asked them for any relief?
I have not, but understand, sir, that the drain on our system is coming from the citizens of Lago Vista. Jonestown and Point Venture in the county is supplementing the fire service for Lago Vista. Lago Vista accounts for almost half of our calls, but they don't account for half of our budget. And let me say, so we had a fire station built in Jonestown 10 years ago, and the city of Lago Vista didn't pay anything to help build that station. Jonestown took the cost of that. We have a station in Point Venture. It's not used, but the village of Point Venture did not ask for any help from Lago. We have one out at Singleton Bend, and we have one in Sandy Creek. So all those stations were built from the money from those neighborhoods, and they didn't ask for any money from Lago or anywhere else. So
I just wanted to keep perspective here. I understand that most of your calls service Lago Vista, but when you look at the numbers of people that live here, it's probably about half of the entire area that you service. Isn't that about right? I'm talking
No.
about in terms of population.
yeah, population is about a third. So we service 37,000, and about a third of those people live in Lago Vista. But the calls for service come to Lago Vista because we have so many visitors that come here. We have so many people work here. We have the schools, and there are a lot of things. So the calls for service are derived from the. In fact, 41% of our calls, if you were to drive a circle, if you go from J&J's and draw a 5-mile circle, 41% of our calls happens right there district-wide. That is where it comes from, and that's why we put the ambulance there, because the ambulance was coming from Jonestown, driving all the way over. So, and
Well, aren't we also about central to the area to the entire area that you service? I mean,
that's probably as close.
Wouldn't that
yeah.
be the logistical way to approach the construction of these fire stations, to have them pretty much in the center of the area that you service?
I mean, you could look at it that way, but that wasn't exactly the logic, because again, Sandy Creek has a station, Jonestown has a station, Lago already had one, so we built the station over here to service the 41% of the calls, which is Lago Vista citizens. So that's the calls for service. In fact, it's 7-1. I mean, let me put it in, I think I know where you're going. So one time that a Lago Vista unit leaves Lago Vista to go to Jonestown, Point Venture, anywhere else, when it leaves one time, 7 times those trucks come from outlying stations to come to Lago Vista to answer calls. So the Lago Vista trucks leaves once. Trucks from outside of Lago Vista comes here 7 times to make up for the call volume, because this area is not serviced enough. So this is the drain, and that's fine. It is what it is, and we want Lago to grow. But
Well, that's what I was trying to understand.
yeah, so it's, and Mayor, I'm trying to put you on the spot. I mean, you worked in dispatch. I mean, the data I'm giving you is factual. That if we didn't have Lago, yes, the $2 million would be gone, but it would be pretty easy for me to service what we had because the call volume would be so much easier and I wouldn't have such a big area to cover. So, and it works. The spreading out of the money among the emergency services district, the way that it is, everybody kind of cost shares a little bit, but I wouldn't feel comfortable in going to the city of Jonestown and saying, hey, I need you to help me pay money to build the fire station in Lago Vista when actually Jonestown helped build that station that was there. So, but yeah, I'll take whatever direction you give me, but that's my mentality on it.
Well, and my understanding on your placement of your stations is your goal is a certain time, say 4 minutes response time. So if you can place a station where 90% of your population is served in under 4 minutes, that's where you want to go. Now, you may have some areas of town that's going to take you 7 or 8 minutes to get there, but they're the 10%. So you don't necessarily put the station halfway in and cut that response time, because now you're taking that 4 minutes away from 90% of your population and making it a 7-minute response time just to get.
You're spot on, Mayor. I mean, we didn't just pick where the station was going to be. We hired consultants. It's called Standard to Cover. They were very strategically placed, and that's why we're seeing the reduction in response times. And the call volume is here. I mean, the fatality wrecks happens on the stretch of highway most of the time. It's in Lago Vista for whatever reasons. So, it's just this is where it is. And
Goes from 4 lanes to 2.
It does. I mean, and we have a lot of bad wrecks. We have a lot of bad fires. You name it, we have it, and we're servicing it. But as it stands today, Lago Vista is the drain on our service, and it's not insurmountable, but our call volume increases by 10 or 12% every year because we're getting so many people moving here, and dump trucks dumping over, and you name it, we have it. So,
Can you do us a favor?
Yes, sir.
We get a report from the PD on their activity. I know on your website you have some of that, but could you send it to us also, that this is the activity for whatever period of time you want to do, 30 days or a quarter?
I mean, I'll do it monthly. I mean, however you want it. I mean, we're data nuts. I mean, everything we do is data driven. So, my assistant chief will be happy to get that to you every month. So,
I don't know, did we put any of that information on the website?
I'm sure we could. Frank, do you have any comments? Is Frank still with us? How's that cruise? Nope, no comments from Frank. All right, if there's no more comments from the dais, if you will stand by, I have some citizens. This time, council will recognize Dale Mitchell.
Thank you.
He may have some questions for you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief. Mayors, council members, I've appeared before you on the subject about ESD, and the basis that I started out from was on the impact fees and who are we collecting impact fees from. And I think I've gone through this before in the Texas Municipal League Revenue Manual for Texas cities. It defines impact fees. Texas impact fee statute defines an impact fee as a charge or assessment imposed by a political subdivision against new development in order to generate revenue for funding or recouping the costs of capital improvements or facility expansions necessitated by and attributable to the new development. Put more simply, impact fees are a way for a city to charge developers for some of the costs that new development places for the infrastructure and resources of a city. I don't consider the ESD a developer. They are not increasing the population here. They're not building the houses. They're not building apartments and all of that. They are here to service the growth that's going on. So when Chief Norman says previous councils had the opinion, just like the school, we would not charge them an impact fee. They're here to service us. and get our rates down from our insurance. He presented you the ISO Class 2 rating that became effective February 1st. We were a Class 5 before this whole started. He got it up to Class 2 now, and he told you about what percentage are up there in that category. We've got 2,700 fire departments in Texas. 300 of them are in ESD. Well, where are the other 2,400? I've talked to you about this before. Those are probably city-owned fire departments, city-funded fire departments, and they probably do not charge their fire department an impact fee when they build a new station. And a lot of them are probably volunteer fire departments in the rural areas, and those are local citizens that are paying for what they build. So I'm still saying I don't think we should be charging what I consider to be our fire department an impact fee. They are here to service. Their traffic to and from the fire department is not the problem for the resources that we have to build for the future. And as I said before, I do consider them our city fire department because we are the largest. They wouldn't put those stations here if they didn't know they needed to serve us. So I urge you to do as much as you can to alleviate this financial impact on them. They never thought they were going to have to. And there are a lot of cities in the state that don't have to absorb any impact fees when they build a new fire station.
All right, thank you. All right, that is all that I have signed up to speak on that agenda item. So unless there is any other questions or comments from council, then we're going to move on to the next agenda item. And I thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
And I just want to say thank you all for bearing with me. The chief had something he needed to do this evening, his department, and so I gave him the privilege of moving up in the agenda. So thank you for bearing with us. Because I know everybody wants to get to agenda item number 4.
Timing is off.
Hi, Frank.
I think he's having a margarita.
What did he say?
Nothing.
Okay, so we're good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, so public hearing and possible action. This is our first consideration. Agenda item number 4. The Lago Vista City Council is holding a public hearing and to consider an ordinance of the City Council of Lago Vista, Texas, amending the official zoning map by changing the zoning district of the following property from the existing Marshall's Harbor Planned Development District, PDD, to single-family residential TAL, R1T. Lots 44 through 48, lots 52 through 54, lot 57, lot 58, and lots 60 through 66 of Marshall's Harbor subdivision. And I will open the public hearing at 7:51 p.m. And I have the cover sheet, but there is so much background information on this that I am going to go ahead and bring up Mr. Roy Jambor to provide the background on agenda item number 4.
Yes, sir. I guess there's really going back to what was part of the P&Z presentation was simply the basis upon which the staff determined that this application was not actually similar enough to be prohibited by the 12-month prejudice, I would call it, prohibiting substantially similar applications. We went through the analysis to determine the changes and what the impact would be. Roughly the things we identified as being the most significant change would have been the setbacks that would have been imposed on whatever resulting plat was proceeded in the future. But once again, the emphasis was on the fact that nothing about this application would, of course, waive or enforce any of the deed restrictions, and any future subdivision application would be dealt with under the basis of the regulations that existed at that time.
And this was approved.
Well, this was at the P&Z. Now, the only thing we added, of course, was the report that the 20% threshold was met, so a supermajority is required for approval of this application.
All right, so for those of y'all in the audience, supermajority means 75% of all members. That would be 6 council members to a vote, and we have 6 in attendance. So if we take action on this tonight, it would require all 6 votes. All right, questions, comments from council?
So Roy, the only thing in this application is the setbacks?
Well, the difference that the primary difference between what the PDD establishes as applicable to these lots, there's a larger setback in the PDD.
Right.
By changing to a standard zoning district, those setbacks would instead apply, and they are, smaller than what's called for in the PDD. Heights are the same,
Right.
et cetera. Uses are the same.
Any more questions?
Yeah, Roy,
Frank?
the impact of approved, if you could explain, the property would now be subject to the development standards applicable to the R1T zoning district. The approval would not waive the existing deed restrictions or covenants currently applicable to the property, but it would be left to the parties to those agreements to enforce them.
Yep.
Any future subdivision application would be considered on the regs and requirements at that time. What does that mean?
Well, this is not a subdivision application.
Right.
If and when a subdivision application is sought, we would enforce the subdivision ordinances as it existed at this time, at the time it was applied for. I sincerely doubt the one we have now will be in place that much longer.
But they have to deal with their deed restrictions?
Well, yeah, we don't. We don't enforce them or waive them. That's just not something the city does. Those are private agreements between individuals or groups of individuals, just like any other contract. If somebody sells you a car that doesn't work, you have a right of action, you take it, but city doesn't do that for you.
When would that occur, do you think?
I don't know. I'm not those parties. That's what I'm saying. We would not control that. They'll make their own decisions about whether to pursue that.
But the developers have to come back to city council at a later time and talk about platting, correct?
Correct. The plat will remain as it is.
So this has nothing to do with platting, which
Does
has
not.
to deal with density
Right.
of an
And
area. So
I'm not smart enough to know what they can and can't do with it until that gets in front of us.
Right. Got it.
Could these lots remain as single R1T lots, or would they have to come back with the subdivision?
No, the use, the R1T approved uses are the same as the R1A uses that are in place now, single family only. Like I said, I'm not looking, but if you'll look at the ordinance that's marked up in red, you'll see all the development standards that applied, and the ones that are different. In my recollection, the most substantial difference was a reduction in the setbacks to make them the same as they are everywhere else. I think that the setbacks are virtually the same in almost all our zoning districts, except for the manufactured home district.
But before any construction could get started, they'd have to come with their conceptual design, correct?
Well, or they could leave it platted as it is. You know, there's no reason to necessarily assume that they'll replat, but, you know, I think their intent is to investigate that, but, you know, like I said, we'll look at that if and when it happens.
Gotcha.
But the change was, as the lots exist now, the setbacks would be reduced. My recollection, I don't have the packet in front of me. But everything's marked.
And is anything different from where the setbacks of the two existing homes that are back there? Is there any difference
Well,
in where their setbacks are?
I've never seen the property lines pinned, but my guess is the existing setbacks in at least one of those houses is substantially greater than that which is required. I mean, a 4-acre lot, that's a pretty big size lot. So, you know, the setbacks are large, but they're not huge.
Gotcha.
Anyone else? Frank? Frank, do you have any questions, comments?
Councilmember Robbins,
Yes.
do you have any comments? The mayor's asking.
No.
Okay. All right, so this is public hearing, so at this time, we are going to go to the applicant. Let me get all my stack here. We're going to hear from the applicant to start with, and then we'll move into everybody that has signed up here. So recognize Mr. Brian Atlas as the applicant.
I'm Brian Atlas, 5001 Lago, Lago Vista, Texas. The first thing that I really wanted to do, just for the record, is give you, who would I give this to? This is our presentation tonight, and I just thought I should do a hard copy for the record, and I'm to the mayor, Sandra? Sandra?
And then she'll give them to me later.
Secondly, every homeowner, every property owner within the entire Marshall's Vista, other than two, Mr. Roberts and Mr. Otwell, have signed the applications for this zoning request, both of them. So I'm not sure how to split it up, but I wanted to bring that up now so I don't have to bring it up when I come up again to talk about number 5, if that's okay.
That's fine.
One more thing, 75 people of our citizens have signed letters in favor of the zoning changes, and again, including every homeowner and every property owner within the entire subdivision, except for Kyle Barrow, Jim Otwell, and Mr. Roberts. And I'd like to have these for the record too.
Do we want to get into the personalities of it, or just?
I've sent copies of all these to each of you.
Yeah, keep going.
He's the applicant, so he doesn't have a time on him.
Thank you. So I'm going to take some time, but not right now. But the first thing I'd like to do is introduce my engineer, Bill Glacier. He is going to go over the zoning that we're looking at and the maps and more or less describe what our intention is for the R1T area in the subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill?
Thank you. Mayor, council members, city manager. My name's Bill Gabler. I'm on staff. I'm one of the engineers with Land Dev Consulting. Previously, Ferris Abushi had appeared before the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I'm going to share, in essence, a lot of the elements that he shared at that time, and they're going to follow very closely with what Mr. Jim Bohr has shared with you. We're looking at going from that PDD, which in essence is R1A, to a standard City of Lago Vista R1T zoning designation. Has a 50% maximum impervious cover, some adjustment to the side yard setbacks. One of the keys, though, for going to the 501T is that the minimum square footage per single family unit is 1,800, where under the R1A, the minimum footage per unit is 1,200. And so we are already upping the size of the product that would be designed for in this setting. Additionally, the maximum 35-foot building height would permit the use of two-story product, which would also allow for additional square footage, getting each of the units closer to the current amount. The actual size of the units is going to have to come from a market analysis. We, as the civil engineer, are looking forward to seeing this zoning passed so that we can begin to explore different configurations for the land. We have an excellent piece of land that, with the right infrastructure, with the right options for the products to be placed on that land. I like to think of it as a pallet. When the applicant hands us the pallet that we get to use to help him develop his land and get his vision going, we have a lot of latitude to optimize how we deal with the topography, how we configure the streets. We want to have a very effective and low impact type development. And by having this zoning information available to us, we can proceed in conceptualizing those products and then developing the land plan and the drawings to come back to you and show you those things. We've had some additional conceptualization occurring, but without the specifics of having this zoning approved, we're really not able to hone in among the myriad options on what would be the best way to develop this land. So following this zoning approval, we would begin to formalize those designs, and all of those would be brought back to you, presented to staff, P&Z, and City Council as the next steps. Right. And they would all be in conformance with the city's standard codes at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Just a little bit of an elaboration on what Bill was talking about. Our minimum size house on any of these lots would be 1,800 feet. And I've gotten a lot of phone calls and a lot of people asking me, golly, down on your peninsula, you're going to put some 1,800-foot houses. And I go, well, if someone will pay me $5 million for a house on a 50-foot lot with an 1,800-square-foot house, yes, I will. So I just want everybody to understand that's our very minimum. But that is not our goal. We plan on building a community. And a community, to me, is multiple size houses, variable lot sizes throughout the community. And certainly down on our peninsula on the waterfront, we plan on doing some very, very, very nice houses on big lots. But my fellow citizens, homeowners, property owners, city council, mayor, manager, city manager, is that you? Oh, and staff. More than ever, I'm feeling positive and desire to make my dream a reality. I'm still here after 14 years of a challenging journey. I was very fortunate to grow up where my clients, my family, my friends and employees provided love and respect. That's made me who I am today. At first, I did not come to Lago Vista to purchase or develop this land. I first came to this city 18 years ago, working to help some people that had lost all their money by investing in a failed mortgage company in Houston. I ended up agreeing to purchase the land and develop it to create value so the investors in the mortgage company and the property owners would not lose their investment. What's come my way since purchasing the land has been more challenging than anything I've ever had to overcome in my entire life. With the will of God, after 14 years of owning this property, I'm still here today. Now have the opportunity to address so many of you. I'm not changing my name, but we are changing the name of the subdivision from Montecino to Waterlights. I hope this fresh name provides a fresh start so that we can put the issues of the past behind us and move this project forward once and for all. Tonight, I'm here not just representing myself, but my fellow homeowners, property owners, our citizens, and our incredible government and staff that have collaborated with our team so that we can present to you a community that fits the master plan of our city, meets the requirements of both a planned development district and the ordinance that our city has created over the years to make and keep our city great. I do not look back, but I believe the past has taught me the answers and the expectations that will lead to the future success of Waterlights. I thank our city. I have great respect for our mayor and the dedication of our city council. I believe they have great integrity and our citizens' best interest at heart. Most importantly, I thank my wife, my partner of 45 years, for standing by me and encouraging me to keep working and do not give up for the last 14 years to fulfill my dream.
So Brian,
Yes.
can we talk about the zoning and, we understand the passion and everything that's, your heart and all this but it's after 8, can we just talk about the zoning and the facts and?
Okay, I'll tell you what, I'll just quit. But I think it's important to understand that this project has been there for 14 years. And there's been a handful of people that have done their best to try to stop it from going forward. And my dream tonight is that we need a supermajority because of these people. And I hope that the city finds it's in the best interest of our citizens and the people that live here to get this approved. And with that, I'll ask Kristen Williams to please come up and do our presentation on Waterlights. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello and good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. City Manager, and the rest of the council. My name's Kristen Williams. I think you guys have probably seen me up here before. My family and I own some property that's on the south side of Cottonwood Hollow, and it's contiguous to the Waterlights footprint, so that's how we got to know Mr. Atlas and the rest of the team here. As you may recall, I spoke back in November at the prior council meeting in support of this project. I supported it then, and I still support it now because I do think this is going to be a very good thing for the landowners in the area and also for the city of Lago Vista as a whole. So that is how I ended up joining this team. I think it has a tremendous amount of potential here. And as I was talking to the team, my background, it seems, is very synergistic with some of the things that they were needing, which is I've spent 2 years in investment banking. I've spent 3 years in private equity with the Blackstone Group. And I've spent the last 10 years of my career doing large-scale developments of natural gas power plants and grid-scale battery storage and wind farm developments along the West Coast. So I'm hoping to bring to this team not only a significant amount of financial acumen and access to capital markets, which I think has been lacking a little bit in the past, but also the emphasis that I've learned through my past projects on making sure that you have community involvement and outreach and being able to reach out to people like Mr. Roberts, who we sat down and he was gracious enough to speak to me about his concerns for an hour and a half. And we've had the opportunity to sit down with Mr. Weatherly, and I think Mr. Tidwell, you spoke to Will and Kelly about some of our plans, really trying to get that out there and out in front of it a little bit. So I hope that my involvement on this team at least has helped in those last couple of weeks of trying to share our vision. But for the benefit of those who have not had a chance to meet with us, I did just want to walk through very briefly. Do we have the slides open? So we really want the Waterlights community to be something that's a lifestyle that's inspired by the natural features of the North Shore. It's obviously one of the most beautiful places on the lake, and so we envision this as something that has very thoughtful design that's going to preserve the intrinsic beauty of the area. We really want this to be a place that emphasizes health and encourages walking and biking. So all of our plans have always included several miles of biking and hiking trails and accessibility to commercial areas without having to get into a car and go driving down the streets. We've partnered with a couple of strategic partners that are going to be able to allow us to have completely green net zero energy producing or net zero energy requirement homes. And we're also in talks to partner with another team that brings a wellness aspect of this. And we think that those two things combined are really going to set us apart from a lot of the competitors in the area. One of the things that we have been focused on a lot here, and it's really the crux of why we're here tonight, is providing a product mix that spans the residential housing life cycle. So that's everything from starter homes to move-ups to your big estate homes, and frankly then from moving down into downsizing homes, and then also to address active senior living. And so those things are all elements that have always been in our plan, and that is really why we're here before you today. Mr. Gabler did a very nice job going through all of the amendments on the table, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that.
You good one?
So yeah, just my nice pretty slides here. Lifestyle inspired by the natural features of the North Shore. Lots of good stuff coming here. But so we do have our two requests before the City Council. Mr. Gabler already discussed those, so I won't go into them again, but just want to mention that the one that we'll be talking about later does represent a significant decrease in land use intensity, so we think that that one is something that should please the council and please the rest of the city here. This second one from the PDD R1A to R1T, we've talked about that, and this is creating identical setbacks to the rest of Lago Vista, and maintains the highest minimum living area for any of the residential zoning ordinances, which is 1,800 square feet. So why is this important to us? And this is the reason why. The Waterlight's product mix needs to reflect what current market demand is. So this is a graph from USA Today. So the graph, the green one, shows that the average home size of a newly built home has been decreasing since 2015, and we're now at that average newly built house in 2019 is 2,500 square feet. Moreover, nearly 90% of the homes purchased in 2019 were under 3,500 square feet. And when you look at Waterlight's current zoning, in comparison, we're disproportionately targeted towards large estate lots. So these are the 18 lots that are currently under consideration for the R1T designation, which is it's 73 acres, and that represents nearly half of the entire acreage for the Waterlights, or the residential acreage for Waterlights. And when you look at the market data from the prior slide, and then you look at what are our comparable community large estate data, we're way off market. And we as a team want this to be a successful development, and I'm sure Lago Vista and everybody else want this to be a successful development, but if we go to market with a product that has a mix of housing that doesn't meet what the market wants, it will not be successful. So that's really the crux of why we're here today asking for this, is so that we can work with our land planners to come up with the best mix of housing from the first home to the last home, and really be able to address people across the spectrum. The comparable communities around us in our area, Treviso has 7 home sites that have 200 frontage feet. And that's 7, and their entire community is much larger than ours, versus what we have right now have 18 of them. The Hollows doesn't even have anything approaching that. Their largest home sites are 120 frontage feet, and Lakeside at Tessera, their largest home sites are 80 frontage feet. So my point here is not that we're going to go and create every single one a 2,500 square foot home, but we don't want to be on either side of the spectrum. We don't want to have 1,000 1,800 square foot homes, because that's not market. We don't want to have half of our community dedicated to large estate acreage, because we just don't think that that's something that the market needs. So this is the reason for this zoning and why we think it's so important here in front of you today. And so the last thing I want to talk about is just, that's the why. And then this is what we think is the most important, is that we think that we can and should be able to do this. As a reminder, Marshall's Harbor is divided into 4 voting zones, and that's Montechino, the Hilltop, the condos, and the estates. So in the CCNRs, the replat standard would be 75% of the overall subdivision has to vote in favor of any amendment, and then 75% of the property owners within the replat zone have to approve the amendment. And so, as you'll see, we've reached that standard for all of these, and I'll touch briefly on both of these because I'm standing up here, but 88% of the property owners in the R1T area support this rezoning proposition, so we've definitely met that 75% threshold, and this is for R1T. 75% of the property owners in the Hilltop area support the rezoning proposition. And then finally, 97% of all of the Marshall's Harbor owners support the rezoning proposition. So that's 154 property owners that are for it and 5 that are opposed. So in conclusion, this is very important to me because the vast majority of the property owners here support this rezoning. We've met the replat standard on both accounts. And also 5 of the 6 people who actually have homes in the area support this rezoning. So Mr. Ellis has talked about the 75 letters of support from other areas of the community. We have a ton of people here also to support this position. So, I would ask the council tonight to consider all those factors, understand that there are a lot of people who really want this to happen. And, we, as has been said before, we'll be back again before you with any plats that we might want to have approved. And I'd like the council and the city to think about that as not us trying to force something down your throats that we've already, a lot of the comments have been, well, I haven't seen what you're going to do. I haven't seen what you're going to do. And that's partly because, as Mr. Gabler said, the consultant wants to know the parameters that they're working with, which is why we haven't come up with a plat map yet. So that's one thing. But then also, this is an opportunity for when we come back for the city council and the residents here to have a significant amount of say in what ultimately gets developed on this land. So I hope that the city council and the people here can look at it as an opportunity and not something that we would try to force down your throats. So thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, please let me know.
All right, thank you.
We're happy to answer any questions.
All right.
Anybody like to speak or ask questions, whatever you,
Is your team done presenting at this time?
I guess we are.
All right. Council, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I'm good. I'm good.
Frank, you have any questions for the applicant?
No, I'll have some comments when we get to the council.
All right. So at this time, it's the public hearing, so I'm going to go into the public portion of the presentation, or the question and answer section. And so I'm going to give some guidelines here. I've got, I don't know how many people that have signed up to speak. I haven't counted them, but I know it's quite a bit. Some have donated time to other speakers. So we've got several hours ahead of us, I'm assuming. Everybody has pretty much signed up for both agenda items, number 4 and number 5. I'm asking now that when we do number 4, when we get to number 5, if your comments are the exact same as it was for number 4, please do not stand up and speak again. Also, we're going to have 3 minutes. I will allow people to contribute time to other speaker to speak on their behalf, but I'm going to limit those people to 15 minutes. So you can't have 30 people donate 3 minutes and you speak for 90 minutes. You will be limited to 15. We will not have any follow-up comments unless a council member directly asks you a question. Again, we have quite a few that have signed up, so I'm sure we will hear quite a few comments. And is there any questions on the rules moving forward? All right. At this time, council recognizes Molly Mitchell. And Molly, I understand you have several that you're representing. You have a presentation.
I do. I'm wondering if, I'm not sure who all is going to end up speaking and who is going to cede me their time. It might make sense to let me go after them, but I'll go now if you prefer.
After them?
I'm not sure who all is going to decide they want to speak versus giving me their time.
Well, the only ones I have signed up that have given you their time are the one that's on the list that you have given me here.
Those are the ones I'm appearing.
Appearing for, okay.
There are some here today that may choose to speak on their own, I guess.
Okay, well, they didn't designate that on their sheet, so I don't know who they are either.
But if you want me to go ahead and go, I certainly will. I was just thinking that there may be some, I'm not sure, they may want to speak up themselves.
All right, well, stand by. Okay. I'm going to go through this real quick, see if I can thin some of this out then. I'll call your name. If you're donating your time to Molly Mitchell, please let me know.
Mr. Mayor, may I take a restroom?
Yes, you may.
Do that?
Yes, you may. Don't everybody run off, though.
No, good.
Well, they can come back.
All right. Excuse me, Greg Swan.
Go ahead.
All right. Mindy Strusaker. Karen Eckerman.
I'll speak.
Okay. Just stand by. Not right now. I'm just going through the list right now. Nope, keep that one separate.
Oh, I'm sorry. Messing with your system.
Ray Chatelain? You speaking on behalf of yourself? All right. Tyson Swan? Heidi Swan? Deanna Roberts?
15 there.
Yep. Yes, but I want to
Separate out.
still separate out the ones. Joe Moreno?
I'm donating my time to Christy Devery.
All right, that's a different one. Jim Otwell. Elaine Hughes. Speaking on your own behalf? All right. Glenn Chappie.
Speaking on my own behalf.
All right, this goes with Christie. That's that one. All right. All right, so that's 6 that I have that's donated their time to Molly Mitchell. So I've got them separated now. Molly, if you're ready, you can go ahead with your presentation. I'll give you 15 minutes. And
May I get this teed up before we start?
And I think you, yes, I believe you have something that you have brought with you as well.
Oh, I do indeed.
Okay.
You want to get them loaded up?
Finish my dinner.
You didn't bring enough for everyone?
Did, look, there's one dark chocolate in there. From Christmas.
From Christmas.
I didn't get one for Paul, though. I'll give Paul mine. Thanks, sir. These are old, but they still taste the same.
Right. Yeah, Halloween, thank you. You get one?
No, that's all right.
Oh, I'm nothing to do with it.
Huh? Yeah, where the cookies? All right.
I will note the PowerPoint that I'm going to go through pretty quickly is in the pocket of each of those notebooks, as well as some other information. And so mainly what I'd like to do tonight is I'm going to, I think the PowerPoint will actually move things along. As I said, so tell me when I'm on. Yes.
I hope so.
Ready to go? All right.
Ready to go.
Rather than talking tonight on the legal, I have communicated with your council my views on some of the legal, the important things and the standards that you all are going to judge by, so I won't go through that. The statute is in your notebook, but you got good counsel, and I know you're going to listen to her, so I have communicated with her case law, Texas Supreme Court case law, statutes, and I hope that she and I will have a chance to discuss those if there's any questions. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the facts. Let me start by clarifying one thing. The applicant said the change would be from 1,200 square foot homes. The change is in the PDD from 3,500 minimum down to 1,800, and the setback change is significant. First of all, my folks, contrary to what sort of has been put out in the community, love the idea of the retirement center, love the community center, love the garden homes, child center, all that stuff. Love it. None of this is about that. And that's sort of what the misinformation is. All of those things have been discussion, the garden homes, the smaller home, the 2,500 square feet that we are heard, they think is market, all of that could have happened yesterday. All of that is properly zoned. That's ready to go in Via Montecino. So the idea that tonight's about fighting that, it's not about fighting that. That would be awesome. Let's go. What tonight is just about is saying, leave the Hilltop as it is, which is commercial, boutique hotel. We heard that's one of the things in the city's plan that we need, boutique hotel. Leave that, where that can be done with that. Not more condos, plenty of room and zoning for condos down in Via Montecino. Big lots. We're going to hear, I think, from a realtor tonight that will tell us if those lots would just be put on the market and marketed up near Mr. Roberts lived, there's absolutely a market for them. We're talking a little bit about, and I included some excerpts in the notebook from the city's comprehensive plan that says we only got 5% of housing in the Lago Vista area is this rural large lots. This is in your parcel. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but really sort of the point I'm making with this, and I think it's important to know, as we've heard from Brian, y'all are in my way. This is all about you won't support me. This came out in 2018, and he's just saying, tell me, everybody, if y'all want to sell up here in the estate lots, tell me we'll sell it all together. If not, I can sell Montecino on its own. All we're saying is go do that. Go do Montecino, develop it, sell it, whatever it is you need to do. This is what he was telling neighbors back in 2018, and it's still true. He can still do that. There's nothing that we're trying to do to stop it or slow it down. This showing is the drawing that we got from the city manager that was given to the city manager that shows these little bitty tiny lots that are proposed. Now we're told this is not the plan right now. Fine. This is not the plan right now. This is the version of this plan is what my client saw on the 21st when he had members over at his house to say, what is the plan? Didn't look exactly like this, but it looked very close, which is a lot of little bitty lots to be put right up against these estate lots, which is inappropriate. I will have you look at, this is what is in your packet and what they're saying is proposed. If you read really closely on H, there's the word villas is still in there. That's from the old plan as well. The idea is to put these little small villas right up against the shoreline, and again, right across the street and right next to these 3.5 acre estate lots. So take a look at that. Take a look at the details and what's planned for this, because the notion that, gee, we have no idea what we're doing, we might just leave it with these big estate lots is disingenuous. That is not their plan. The plan is and always has been to cut this up into smaller lots. In fact, what you'll look at, I've got in the packet an email that went out on midnight a few days ago from Mr. Atlas to everybody in the community, getting support, the support that's here tonight. And in it, he says this is going to be, the sizes are going to be kind of like they are at Via Montecino. That's the plan. So again, no big mystery here. heard a little about property tax valuations earlier today, and I just want to focus the council in on this a little bit, because if we will hear again from a realtor, if these lots were properly marketed, they haven't been on MLS at all. If they were properly marketed, you could end up having these big estate lots of a high value. You get a similar taxable value, but all the city has to provide, and we heard again from the fire department, they're providing services and infrastructure for 18 families. Now, if you put 10 plus homes on those lots, you got 180 families for roughly the same tax value. You're losing the open space, you're losing the non-point source, you've got bird issues, you've got all kinds of things that go away if this PDD is gone. The PDD itself says that the large setbacks were intended to account for, basically check the box for the non-point source. So that's going to have to be made up somewhere else. But this is the tax issue. When they said, we're going to bring all this new tax revenue, if they just would get busy selling these big estate lots, the similar tax revenue would come without the drain, without the environmental impact. I spent a lot of time on this master plan, the comprehensive master plan. I've excerpted it for you in your notebooks. What I can tell, that plan took a lot of brain power, a lot of time, over a year. And in fact, again, I've excerpted for you what was done and the analysis that was done. It calls out in there specifically the need for more large lot homes, with the idea of attracting to Lago Vista people that want to get out by the lake, they want to have big lots, big homes. There's a piece for that. There's a piece for garden homes, for apartments, for starter homes, for move-up homes, and there's a place for these large lot estate lots. There's very little in the area. As I said, according to the master plan, only 5% remaining properties are large lot rural. That's what this property is called and how it's designated. I've included in your notebooks the excerpt that shows you from the development office's documents. They call large lot rural is above basically 2 acres. There is a market for these. They just need to be marketed. Mr. Atlas, as again, he says in that email, he hasn't wanted to do that because he doesn't want to lose control of the HOA and control of how the whole subdivision does. We say, go do Via Montecino, go do that, but leave the uplands, the hilltop, leave these estate lots alone. That was the deal cut in 2007 on the settlement agreement. We say, take all your density, go do it, go make your money, we hear you, that's what you want, and nothing's happened. So we're saying again, your plus plans are great, go do them, but just leave us alone. Here's a summary of the zoning changes. One thing I really have a real problem with, it's bad planning to pull out from a PDD, to pluck handfuls of lots out. This is not like when they pulled Montecino and did a separate PDD. That was PDD to PDD and a whole lot of contiguous lots. Here what they're wanting to do is to say, we want to keep our PDD, but we want to just pluck this handful of lots out, and there's only one reason that that's being done, and that is to increase density. Increasing density at the zoning stage. Because when you do a 3,500 square foot down to 1,800, when you do setbacks that they've proposed, what you end up with is what you're pre-approving in advance is saying that you have the zoning to do lots of 0.2 acres or smaller. If you approve these setbacks and this 1,800, that was not what was envisioned in this PDD, and it's not appropriate given that you've got all of Villa Montecino still out there and still available to do this kind of building and this kind of zoning. And again, there's only one reason to do that. The notion you would have a 3-acre tract with a 15-foot setback on the side or 25-foot setback in the front is ludicrous. There's one reason to do it, and in Lago Vista, y'all don't set minimum lot sizes. You control density primarily through setbacks and through house sizes. That's what's being done here. So the notion they're saying, well, we have no idea what we'll do. Of course they do. This is just a density change. Other changes, the masonry. Again, we have 100% masonry under the PDD, like a high-end neighborhood would. It goes down to 25% masonry. The character of all of this beautiful property that was put in place with a lot of open space will be changed fundamentally and forever. This is the legal part. I'm going to skim over. The only thing I'm going to underline is, as I've submitted to your council, I think you got to find all three of those if you guys are going to make this change and if you're going to approve it. Again, I don't want to get bogged down. I blathered on, I think, at P&Z for too long about this. So I've submitted to your council, but our position is you've got to hit all three of those points if you're going to approve. This is Via Montalcino. We look at the sign on the left, what was promised, big plans. Right next to it is all boarded up, is the big, event center. There's 3 or I think 4 houses in Via Montalcino after all these years. We don't have a retirement. We don't have garden homes. We don't have any condos. All the things that it is currently right now zoned for that they could do. Where are they? It hasn't happened. And this is what my folks, my clients that are up, what they say is, go do something. Go prove that you can do that. And then let's talk about making the same changes, trying to make all of our property that's now zoned large estate lots, making them into another Via Montalcino. Do something there first and then talk. But right now, there is no reason in the world why, with Via Montalcino being the way that it is, with Mr. Atlas in the first slide saying, I could sell just that. I don't have to sell them all. I can do either. There's no reason in the world to give them these changes, these density changes they will forever change the character of both the uplands, they used to call the uplands back in the old days, the hilltop, I should say, and the estate lots. We don't want another Via Montalcino. Let me, if I may, use the rest of my few minutes to just walk through what we've got in the notebook and why I think it's important. Tab 2, I think you have seen before. This is the comparison of the two items. I'm going to address briefly in connection with the other application, the importance of that. I have included the future use map, more discussion about what it means to be the rural area. The comprehensive plan excerpts. That's important because we got input, I think, from more of the P&Z saying, well, that comprehensive plan, we can change that, or that's not a big deal. But when you read this, it's a really big deal. It's been a lot of time and effort, and it tells you it should guide your zoning decisions. Certainly, you can approve something that's contrary to it, but as I say, you've got to make some fairly extraordinary findings if you're going to do so. Also included, we had a lot of folks here, and I have every reason to believe those that are supporting it believe at their heart it's a good thing. They want some of the things that were promised, and I don't quibble at all with their thought process or reason for coming here. But I'd ask you to look at, under tab 8, when you have a chance, the email, the kind of things that's being put out by Mr. Atlas in order to get the engagement. Again, as if we're trying to fight any of the benefits that are already in place and entitled in Via Montalcino. I would also point out some of the people he says in this email that he is saying or supporting it. A couple of them, there are emails at the back of tab 8 that says, no, I'm not supporting it, even though he's listed them as such. I've included a letter from another resident in the area who's also an attorney in Austin, Mr. Breen, expressing his opinion, and then the zoning statute excerpt, again, that talks about what needs to be found if this council is to determine that 1550 is appropriate. From a personal standpoint, I represent a number of individuals. The Roberts are the most impacted. There's a picture of their home in the back tab. They bought into this place hook, line, and sinker based upon what zoning was in place, based on what the CCR said, and they built a big, beautiful home on a big, beautiful lot. Mr. Roberts has actually tried to buy another lot to build another home on, as has Mr. Dasbach. Those are under contract to Mr. Atlas at this time. But they see real opportunity here. And again, I think as you'll hear from a realtor when she speaks, if we would just get over this notion of him selling everything together and just start marketing these things. There is a real demand for them, beautiful land. That could be a very beautiful neighborhood and add to the tax dollars in the same way that we've shown above that the impact of having all these little houses would have. Just ask you, I know I've got a few seconds left. I know, and I'm sure everyone in this room knows, it doesn't matter with you guys who you like. Do you like our side? Do you like Mr. Atlas? Do you not like anybody? It doesn't even matter if y'all like the plan. Y'all are here, I know, to do what's good for the city of Lago Vista, and you're here to follow the law. And we ask if you'll do those two things, you'll deny approval of 1550.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
No. All right, so moving on. Again, I've got lots of people, so when I get to you, remember this is about a zoning change, so if you would please address the actual zoning application. Try to keep the emotion and passion and storytelling and all of that to a minimum so that we're not here all night. We've heard this for weeks, so we know all the hearts and passions and feelings that are involved with this. So at this time, I am going to recognize Karen Eckerman.
All right, my name is Karen Eckerman, Mr. Mayor, Councilman. I am a active Texas realtor, and I have been since 1998. I've earned many top honors in my field and as a realtor. I have friends on both sides, very much so on both sides. So it's kind of hard for me. But Mr. Roberts has asked me to present to you the facts of the availability of the large lots in Lago Vista. I've prepared a data sheet for you that tells you that how many lots are available in different areas of our city and also surrounding areas. Having moved 17 times in my married life, I normally had 2 to 3 days to find a home. Thank you, corporate life. But granted, I only moved to 9 different zip codes. While I built my home, I had to rent. But when I moved to this new area, I really didn't know it, so I had to rely on what was presented within the city deeds or restrictions. So I had to follow that when I built my home. A home is something that a person purchases. It's the largest purchase normally a person ever makes in their home. So I believe it's the city's responsibility to maintain the integrity of the lot size in the subject area. We've seen a restructure in Montechino several years ago. Brian's had us to his house. Thank you. But we've never seen the development of that. So I love that there's a dream for this, and I would hope that things could go. But Mr. Roberts has purchased this land in his home, and he built this for something future. So here are the facts. There are 13 lots that sold in Ranchland Hills. We all know that's off of Reed Park Road. And these are only recorded data that I'm presenting to you from the MLS. The average lot size is 1.6 acres. In Lago Vista, again, 1.5 acres to 10 acres. The average size was 2.61. The average price was $157,000. There were 10 lots sold in 2017, 19 lots sold in 2018, and 9 lots sold in 2019. The average price was $316,000, and the average days on the market is 341. So it takes a little longer to sell the larger lots. This week, a home in Lago Vista on 3 acres just went under contract within 5 days. So it's important that you realize that people like their privacy and like their space. In Waterford, between 2017 and 2019, there were 22 lots that have sold. The average price of $226,800. The average size is 1.82. We've found that in the data that Montechino has not had any lots listed except for 2 owned by the same person.
All right, your time's up.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, I now recognize Ray Chatelain. Chatelain. How do I pronounce that, sir?
Chatelain.
Chatelain.
I'll be brief. I'm Ray Chatelain. My wife, Kim, and I live in Lago Vista on Rolling Hills Trail. And I just wanted to point out that this project that's proposed is going to greatly increase the tax base of Lago Vista, and it's going to provide tax revenues to our school district, which I very much support, and also to the ESD, number one, that we spoke about tonight, and perhaps even relieve some stress on the current taxpayers and homeowners in Lago Vista. The project is in the development stage, and it can be approved. If the zoning is reapproved, we can move forward with that. I say we, they can move forward with it, but I'll end with just reminding you of the tax increase that will benefit the Lago Vista residents and the entities in Lago Vista that we have.
All right.
That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is he leaving? Can I pull him out? And I'll now recognize Elaine Hughes.
It's like a pattern. You speak.
Yeah, can I?
Do you recognize me?
Do you want me to? So you can leave?
Hello, Mayor, City Council, and City Manager. My name is Elaine Hughes. I live at 2802 Douglas Cove. I'm also the Executive Director of the North Lake Travis Chamber of Commerce. This statement that I'm going to read has been approved by our Chamber Executive Board. The Chamber's mission is to support small businesses and to promote tourism, which in turn helps small businesses. We have a lot of small businesses that are thriving in our town, and we have some that are struggling. As presented, the advantages of more rooftops include increasing the base of potential customers for our local businesses, as well as increasing the size of our local workforce available to these local businesses. Once again, the Chamber supports more housing to help our businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll now recognize Glenn Chappie.
Glenn Chappie, I live on Flight Line Road in Lago Vista. Just a couple observations here. It's funny in Lago Vista, I love this town, love everything about this, but we complain about all kinds of stuff. It's just amazing. It's amazing what I see on the complaint tally. And here's more observation, right? It doesn't matter what somebody wants to do. There's always somebody else over here screaming about it. Now, as a citizen, what I care about, is it legal? Is it proper? And, I don't want my city government getting in the way of my private property rights. We've had arguments about that, haven't we? but on the other hand, if the land is owned, if the land is voted and it's okay, then it's okay. If it's not okay, it's not legal, it's not proper, it's not okay. But the point I'm trying to make is, I don't understand why every time somebody says, look, this property's been sitting here for a number of years, it clearly ain't doing a whole lot right now. Here's a plan to go make it better. I'm kind of leaning towards the better. So that's it for me.
All right, thank you. Okay, next I'll recognize Christy Devericks. She had to leave. Okay.
Christy is one of the homeowners in the subdivision. She had a babysitter and had to leave because she knew she'd be here this time.
All right, so I had 3 people who had signed up to donate their time to her. So I will set Christy off to the side, who's not here.
I'm going to take her time.
Oh, hold on. They have not given their time to you. And you're the applicant, so you've got plenty of time anyway. Miss Ann Murrow, would you like, I'm sorry?
Same person.
Same person. Who is that same person?
What's her name? Christy.
She's not here.
Can I give it to someone else?
You can. Who would you want to give that to?
Who would you like me to give it to?
All right.
Who's one of the other people in the list there?
Is Shane Devericks here? No, give him my minutes to Christie, okay. Joe Marino, would you like to speak on your behalf?
If Matt Ridgway is here, I'd like to give my time to him.
I don't have anything for Matt Ridgway. I have not seen it. I have not seen a sign-up sheet for Mr. Ridgway. All right.
I guess I didn't sign up, so can I speak? Property owner, homeowner in the subdivision.
Yeah, Ann's gonna give him.
Yes, I'll put you off to the side if you would sign up to speak, so I have proper documentation of your, you can get with the secretary, and I'll get back to you. Do that now, please. All right, we're going to move on then. We're going to, at this time, I'm going to recognize Mr. Jim Awalt. And Mr. Awalt, you have 3 people that have signed their time to you, so I'll give you 12
I won't use that
minutes.
much time.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, Jim Awalt, 1909 Loman Ford Road, Lago Vista, Texas. I'm positive about Lago Vista. My wife, Susie, and I have lived here have owned the property for 20 years. We've invested significantly in not only our home and our surrounding 28 acres, but we also have invested significantly up at the airport and are very active in that area. I support Montecino, the development, the changes. I would like to see something positive happen. It would be good for our city, not only the tax base, that's we all understand that. It's also good for to help build community. I'm really quite tired of the same people complaining about they want to object. It's the same people every time. It's Jim Otwell, who does not live in this city, who does not own a home in this city, does not contribute to the city, except for the $2 million that you guys came up short when you had to sell his house. I'm sure you remember that. That's a bitter pill for this city. The other guy's Mickey Redwine. He doesn't own a home in this city. He doesn't live here. He petitioned this city to de-annex. He doesn't pay any tax to the city.
Personalities here.
Excuse me, it's my time. So I'll speak briefly to that.
All right, yeah, if you would, please keep it to the zoning
so with having said
application.
that, I'll talk specifically about the zoning. But the reason I brought those personalities up is it is a supermajority, and those personalities play with that because requirement is we have all of the votes. And that's what I pray you guys consider. With regard to the zoning, there's 3 members here, Glenn Chappie and where's Mr. Ray Chatelaine, and I are on all members of a MUD up in Williamson County. And we just approved significant bonds in that area. They're going to be in excess of $50 million. And they're developing 200 acres. And they came to us as the board to to help facilitate those dollars. It's 225 acres. And the company that's out there developing it, putting the infrastructure in and building the streets and the street lights, et cetera, in Williamson County are putting 900 homes on that 225 acres. And I spent a 20-year career selling professional products to all of the home builders in Texas. I know all of them. And when I asked him, I said, well, what size lots are you guys going to do? And they said, well, we're going to do 50-foot lots. But if we could do a 40-foot lot or a 20-foot lot, it would sell. And the reason the larger lots aren't selling is the home builders and the group that's doing this
is KB Homes and other master planned builders, is they want velocity. They want to be able to build and get through there, because what's happened in our local counties today is the property taxes are just obscene. So they want the smaller lots, so it makes it more affordable. The large estate lots just aren't selling. And the significant reason is property taxes. So with that, I just want to urge you to vote positively, and it is a supermajority. And Tim, the only reason I brought the personalities up, sir, is it's the same people every time. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so now I have the application. I'll go ahead and recognize Matt Ridgway. You have 9 minutes.
Hi, my name is Matt Ridgway, Mayor, council members. I've lived here, lived at 4609 Boxwood Bend in Marshall's Harbor for 5 years. Been in Lago Vista for 19 years. And I strongly support the rezoning change, because before me and my wife could build a house in the subdivision, we worked very closely with Brian Atlas in the city to get 2 areas in the subdivision rezoned so we could build our family's home there. And during this time, I learned of the potential this subdivision has, and believed and still do believe this is going to be a beautiful subdivision that will have awesome amenities. After reviewing the latest packet, my wife and I got excited to finally see some activity. This development has remained stagnant for far too long, so I decided to meet with Mr. Atlas about the application, and I got a better understanding of the vision the current group has. If I understand it correctly, it's a good zoning change. In my opinion, the main reasons to approve this rezoning application is the developer wants to change commercial property into residential property. That's a good thing. That's less density. I'd rather have families living in the area than a hotel resort in the subdivision. The developer wants to rezone large estate-sized lots into all different sizes, and this will meet the current market demand. I believe now this is the group to finally bring this development to market and create a long-lasting value for existing property owners. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I'll recognize Cindy Atlas. Cindy, you have a maximum of 12 minutes. All right.
I'm Cindy Atlas. I live at 5001 Lago. I've been married to Brian for 45 years. We have 3 daughters that have blessed us with 6 grandchildren that adore their grandpa and Gigi. We were high school sweethearts and went on to attend University of Texas. Brian had a successful career at Atlas Air Conditioning in Houston, Texas, where he was CEO of the company that his father started and grew it to be in 28 states with over 500 employees. He took the company public before retiring in 2001. I'm very proud of him for all his hard work and success. He gave his family a great life. He loves working and is a workaholic. When it comes to getting things done, if I mention something to be done, it is done immediately. He is not a quitter. That's why we've been here for 14 years. He does not give up.
Cindy, do we have anything that pertains to the zoning application? Or is this just a story?
Well, I pray the city council of today has the interest of the people in the subdivision and the citizens of our city. I look around and see all these concerned citizens that came out tonight to witness this meeting, and I want to thank them for coming. If we do not get a supermajority tonight, we all lose. I ask you, is there any reason to stop this subdivision from going forward? Let's vote tonight and get this moving forward. Brian and his team are ready to work and just need the zoning to allow this subdivision to go forward and be successful. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have exhausted the list of signups. Is there, before I take closing statements, is there any questions, comments from council at this point?
No.
Frank, can you hear me, Frank?
Frank, you have anything?
No.
All right, so at this time, I'll let the applicant make follow-up comments and closing statements.
Sure, go ahead, please.
What I heard mentioned earlier today had to do with the non-point source pollution controls and making sure we take care of our environment due to the runoff. When I look at the Highland Lakes watershed manual, it indicates that development over less than 10,000 square feet, impervious cover less than an acre, there's no permit required. And so the potential exists for all 18 of these lots to be developed without any permit through the Highland Lakes watershed ordinance. Additionally, there's a significant difference in the type of development with respect to these large lots would be on a septic system versus on a sanitary sewer collection system. And I don't know what the experience has been in this particular area, but many parts of the hill country have a lot of trouble over time with septic systems and degrading the water supply.
Couple things I would just like to clarify. I know it's really not that important, but I feel like doing it. This lady, or someone got up, I think it was Molly, saying that lots in this subdivision, the big lots, properly marketed, would sell. Well, I think she represents Mr. Otwell over there, and just for the record, Mr. Otwell has or had 2 lots on the market at least for the last 5 years, and they have not sold. There are 3 other lots that have been on the market for the last 15 years. They have not sold. 1 lot did sell, and it went to Paul. I'm not here tonight to do anything to hurt Paul Roberts. That's obviously not even part of what we're trying to do here. That doesn't make any sense. And if Paul's worried that maybe we'll build a house next to him that's a 1,800 square foot house, well, I'll go on the record. Not gonna happen.
Your word isn't worth anything.
Well,
All right.
That's all right. Okay. Boy, I'd like to read something here from my bank's appraisal department. My bank's appraiser, and this is an appraiser. I'm just going to read it. Dear Mr. Atlas, as you're aware, I've been the appraiser for the Montecino Master Plan Development for various lenders over several occasions over the past 10 years. As a side note, I am now and have been very active in new subdivision development appraisals in the region of Austin for numerous lenders over the past 25 years. Following letter will address my opinion of effects of replatting and rebranding the subject site for Waterlight's proposed development by a new competent management team. I don't know if I am or not. I guess I am. Historically, Montecino was planted and intended for predominant estate lot usage, mostly high-end residential houses. Over the years, the market demand clearly changed from larger estate lots which are cost prohibitive and slow sellers compared to small production lots, 45 to 80-foot front lots. Thus, along with developer litigation matters, thanks, Jim, and other lack of funding reasons, the subject development site in the state of disrepair. There's dumping all over the place and debris. It's hard to control because it's just a big open piece of land. It's never been able to reach its market share potential. Accordingly, the subject development site is in need of proper funding, development, management team to take the project to the next level, commensurate with its prime Lake Travis view location. I've been advised by the proposed Water Lights rebranding and replatting plans for smaller production home lots, which is exactly what is needed, in my opinion, for a premier master planned community. This unique prime site along the north bank of Lake Travis that would greatly benefit from a replat is proposed. If you have any questions, if someone would like to talk to this man, he is one of the appraisers for both Tessera and Treviso that surround us. And the reason we're doing what we're doing is to create a beautiful master plan for our city. I would have been done with this project by now, but I'm not going to go into that right now because I don't think that's why we're here. What we'd like to do is move forward, get some rezoning done so that we can develop our land. Thank you.
Thank you.
Will, do you have anything you want to say? Okay.
All right. Does anybody on council have any questions, comments? All right, at this time, we are going to leave this public hearing open, and we're going to move to agenda item number 5. Oh, let's see, where's my thing so I can read it in? Number 5, the Lago Vista City Council is holding a public hearing to consider an ordinance of the City Council of Lago Vista, Texas, amending a portion of the current Marshall's Harbor Planned Development District, PDD, hereinafter referred to as the Water Lights Planned Development District, in order to modify the uses and development regulations specifically applicable to the following property: lots 68 through 73 of Marshall's Harbor subdivision. And I will open the public hearing at 9:10 p.m. And Roy, I'm going to ask you to brief us on this.
Generically, it's not much different than what I told you about the last application. We did our analysis about whether it be prohibited, being substantially similar. The uses are, in fact, for that specific piece of property was similar to what was proposed for the Hilltop in a previous application. However, I'm not aware that anything else, any other aspect about it is similar at all. None of the locations are the same. The street layout, the density, all of that was quite a bit different. And as a result, we concluded that this was very much a different application. Once again, the packet itself points out the difference in uses. One of the things that was brought out subsequent to the, other than the 20%, which we calculate afterwards, one of the questions was because the engineer and the way he drew it, you could infer from the way it was drawn that there was a strip of land separating the public right-of-way from an adjacent property owner who might in fact be landlocked. We confirmed with the engineer that that was not the intent, and your ordinance in fact includes a provision that would prevent that from happening.
All right, thank you very much. And as he mentioned, written comments received from property owners within 200 feet exceeds the 20% of the property. So this also requires a supermajority vote, which would be 6 of the 7 members. Questions, comments from council?
No.
Frank?
Any comments, Frank?
No.
Mr. Mayor, I would only make one comment about this. My opinion, we're getting way off of what this is about. This is a rezoning application presented for a specific piece of property where the majority of the landowners wish to make the change. I understand that there is opposition to it, but when I went into this, I said that I would listen to our citizens, I would hear what they said, and I would vote what the majority wanted. We're getting a long ways off of what is going on here. This is a change in zoning. This is not a contest about who we like or who we don't like or who did this or who did that or what kind of crud went on 10 years ago. I could care less. That is not what we are here to discuss and to decide. And I would like to stick to the subject.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? All right, so public hearing. I'm gonna, this time, start with the applicant.
I want to introduce again, Bill, please come up and talk about
It's Bill Gabler with Land Dev Consulting. And at the P&Z meeting, Ferris shared that while this is rezoning, it's staying within the PDD, going from the C2 to a portion of it as R4 and a portion as a R1A. The image that's been referenced is on sheet 115 of your packet. I don't know if we're able to bring that up on the monitors or not, but that may be useful in aiding the discussion as we go forward. The R1A will follow standard setbacks, except for the rear yard setback and max building height, which are set for the PDD. The R4, the 30-unit condo, would have a 60-foot maximum height rather than the 80-foot maximum height currently allowed in the PDD. And there's a 25% extra landscape and parking buffer that's been identified. The site that we have here with the hilltop, we were allowed to pursue a little more detailed conceptualization to provide to you because it is a very nice site that needs to be developed properly. A big piece of the zoning in both these cases has to do with picking the right size product to put on the hillsides, on the curved streets that are going to be required to go in here, and to have that, as I referenced earlier, a palette. The sheet 115 has a color image of the conceptualization we made, which includes the use of collector streets and local streets, destination type setup for the residences. The roads are in essence benched on some flatter land areas within the hills as it steps down so that the residents can either be cascading down the hill from it or actually up from it. We've also tried to be attentive to, and this is just our first run at it here, where we would need to notch into the hill that it would not create challenges for the residential unit. So like on this bottom stretch, you'll see the lots backing up to the street and the road kind of notched into the hill, avoiding, as many retaining walls as we can. We're not looking at the product that I understand we're being asked to deliver with respect to the infrastructure is not wholesale mass grading everywhere we can. It's the objective is to preserve a lot of the open space and the natural drainage patterns as best we're able. We would be implementing the Highland Lakes Watershed Ordinance at all of the levels and we would be maintaining open space and preserving the independence of adjacent lots. With respect to the condo unit, there's been discussion of how to configure that project. The image that we just kind of dropped in here for the minute shows a building and a separate parking lot. There's also discussion of structured parking and other ways to make it a less obtrusive facility on top of the hill. So with respect to the civil design, we have a good opportunity to make excellent use out of this land, provide some good lots for residents to have good views. Generally speaking, those lots are 50 by 120 plus in shape and size. Thank you.
Mayor, I've got a question.
All right. Recognize Frank.
It's actually for the staff. Roy, is the site plan that's up on the screen part of the ordinance, which means they'll have to build it according to that site plan?
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
It's Exhibit A in your draft ordinance in your packet.
Thanks.
You bet.
Anything else, Frank?
Anything else, Frank?
No.
All right, Brian, does your team have more?
William Farrell on behalf of the applicant. I just wanted to point out with respect to the hilltop. Now, bear with me for just a second. I don't want to get into the history, but I just wanted to point out that there is a settlement agreement, as a result of some previous litigation where some of the people that are opposing the application tonight agreed to essentially this plan of some condominiums and some single family that were at a density of 5 units per acre. And this is much less than what has previously been agreed to. So I really don't understand the objection when they've previously agreed to essentially this plan.
Gotcha.
And so I just wanted to point out that there was a agreement in place of which the city is also a signatory to that agreement. So I just wanted to point out that with respect to the hilltop. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, anything else from your team?
Sorry, I just wanted to quickly mention, in response to Mr. Weatherly's comment earlier about keeping our mind on the zoning and do we have the necessary approvals and stuff, just wanted to take the opportunity to, if we want to pull back up the slides and just recall that we've got the necessary approvals within the subdivision to do that. I know y'all have seen it, so we don't actually have to do that, but, I would agree with that comment and we would like to keep it focused on the facts as well.
Thank you. All right. All right, I will move into my citizen comment, public hearing portion of it. And since everybody had signed up for both of them, I'm just going to start over. Again, I'm going to ask you if there's really nothing, whatever you're going to speak on number 5, if you're going to speak on number 5, make sure it pertains to number 5. This actual application. Let's not go back to number 4. Let's stay away from all the stories and personalities and all that. And I will start with Molly Mitchell. Do you have something you would like to present on behalf?
I do briefly.
All right. I recognize Molly Mitchell.
Two things that's a little bit different. This is obviously a lot shorter, but the first thing is really challenging under Section 1510, whether this should even be considered because it's within the 12 months. I know it's the exact same zoning, if you will, change from commercial hotel to residential and condos. It's exactly the same. The first time around, if you recall, staff when we were here a couple months ago, staff was complaining, so we don't have enough detail on what you're doing. This has more detail, and in the materials I saw, that seems to be really the only distinction, is they've now put in the drawings, say, here's what we're doing, but from a strict zoning standpoint, change old use, commercial hotel, resort hotel, to residential condos, 60 condos. It's exactly the same. And again, I'm going to beat you all over the head with it. I've certainly raised this with your council. We don't think this should even be considered. If it is considered, I represent a number of parties who want to focus on Kyle Barrow. He owns the 2 lots that are adjacent to this. He opposes, as he puts it, we all agreed on a settlement agreement. We agreed on a use. That's what's currently reflected, which is a resort hotel. He will now have commercial hotel zoning right next door to condos, which are going to be high, at least from the drawings I've seen, high-rise condos, and he opposes them on that basis. This is already an elevated site. Hilltop, if you will, and having the higher rise condos is going to be a problem for him. It's going to, Mickey Redwine particularly opposes it because it's going to be staring right across at his tract, and there's a covenant, which you're all familiar with, that says, Brian agreed, you cannot change density to impact negatively the value of my property. He believes that this will do so. Again, applicant's burden here, we're back to sort of the same argument, which is, have they met the burden to say why this should change? When we've got condos that are already zoned and ready to go and be a Montecino that haven't been done. And finally, within the context, this is a PDD, if you recall, again, heavily negotiated. We got 60 condos already down on the waterfront that are zoned for that. So that's like was the balance originally, which is the hotel and some residential big lots and then condos at the point. So again, doing this piecemeal instead of doing the trade-offs is you end up with condos on both ends of this big, beautiful track, which again, my clients think is inappropriate. And we would ask that not appropriate to consider. If you do consider it, that it be denied.
All right, thank you. Karen Eckerman, do you have anything for this agenda item?
No.
Ray Chatelain? Gone. Elaine, I saw Elaine Hughes, right? She left?
Yeah, she left.
Okay. Glenn Chappie.
I'll be fast. Okay, I've been listening. This is a great ride. I learn every time I come here. I learn something. So I don't like what he's building next to me, even though he's allowed to build it. But I don't like it, so you can't do it. So I'm going to fight somebody with it.
I understand.
I think it all boils down to if the majority of the landowners want it, then they get it, and that's the way it goes, provided it's legal and can be done. And that's what I expect the city to support. That's hopefully. Thank you.
Got it.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Awalt, do you have anything to add?
Ditto what Chappie just said.
Got it.
Thank you. Love the brevity. Matt Ridgway. No.
It's gonna be a lot quicker this time.
Cindy Atlas, do you have anything to add? All right.
Can I have one of your minutes? Sure. Can I have one of Cindy's minutes?
You can.
It bothers me too that somebody comes along and says, I don't like having a 2,500 square foot house next to me. Estate people want estate people next door. I can't afford an estate. Anyway, it doesn't seem like the size of the house or the family that lives in it or the soul of the people matters one iota. It doesn't bother me.
All right. Well, we're just talking about zoning right now.
Yeah, I know. That's zoning.
All right. Anybody on council have any questions, comments at this point?
The lawsuit, does signatories all the signatories have to agree to change it? If it's settled, including the city?
No.
No?
That would be something that legal would have to answer for you.
What was the question?
The settled lawsuit, do all parties have to agree to change?
Can I address that?
Well, we can have legal do it.
Well, I'll let her reiterate, but. Okay.
Can we have legal? Yeah. I mean.
So depending on what is happening if what is being requested from you doesn't affect the specific substance of the agreed lawsuit. For one of the examples that was given earlier is that there were specific covenants between the parties regarding use. That is a private settlement agreement that we need to look at the specific points and aspects on it. If we as the city are a signatory to that settlement agreement, there are certain limitations that we as the city would be held to with regard to that agreement. That settlement agreement doesn't specifically give you the authority to do something or prohibit you from doing something that your city regulations allow you to do specifically. It doesn't directly address the zoning question that's before you tonight. The question about density really comes in terms of platting.
I know, and we're not dealing with
And that's
planning at all.
that's not what's before you.
I know. That's where I'm having a hard time. You know, this is a zoning issue. R4, what can you put on
That's
R4?
use.
Roy?
Once again, you know, and I think Frank was exactly the point. What you have in front of you, this is a PDD. It's a concept plan.
Right.
That ordinance specifically says he's going to have a 30-unit condo. That's it.
Yeah.
The rest of it's single-family houses,
It's
those
single-family.
lots. End of story.
I know.
All right.
Thank you.
Ask Frank if he has anything.
Frank, do you have anything?
No.
All right, well, at this time then, we're going to leave this public hearing open. And
I just want to ask, when do we get to vote on this? At the next meeting?
you have 2 weeks to go home and do your homework and study everything that was presented to you tonight.
Okay.
Ask your legal questions, get with your development services director, and everybody, ask your questions, and then we will bring this back on the 20th.
Got it.
All right? And at this time, we will move on to agenda item number 6. And actually, I have to go to the restroom, so we are going to recess until 9:35.
I had to go early. I couldn't wait long.
Just approve this and move on, right?
Thank you.
All right, now we can fly.
I'm still confused.
Are we going to come back?
70% don't land out there.
Do you want to?
Are the
applicants here?
No, that's there. This was,
25% started, was asking me.
What is the
by the majority.
Let me reduce that. To me, it's apples and oranges. There's some generalities that are in that agreement. As long as you don't do something that would allow y'all to do something that violates the agreement, I don't think that you have to do that. This is about each. So, but I want to understand y'all's side. Is there something that?
Lordy, Lordy.
Yeah, we need to look at both parts, but I just want to make sure we're all.
I'm just saying, I don't.
Yeah. Right. No. No, I want to make sure I understand your side. I'm going to listen to their arguments as well, just so that I can properly advise the council. So let's talk next week. Thank you. Hi, how are you? Yes. Oh, yes. And I'm already, but yes,
Hi, years ago, we worked with Bill Angelo, my
you know the city side?
Yes, yes. And I'm working with him.
Okay.
Because we're trying, and I met with Josh. So I just want to talk.
Yes. Are you here in Lago?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Where's your office?
You know where Highland Lakes Real Estate is? Come into Lago with the stoplight on the right-hand side.
Just right there.
It's a two-story building, and Highland Lakes Real Estate's on the top, and then on the bottom.
We're waiting on 2 more articles. We want to get all of our tickets together.
It's a tiny little office, and it has and I retired and left, so now I came back, and so my job is to be an office manager. So anyway. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm working with Josh. I'm sorry.
Ed, come on.
So, how long have you been a city attorney? You haven't had some
It's relevant. Hey, Josh, Matt, Josh. Matt Jones, nice to meet you.
About 2 years ago.
Ed, this is Matt, this is Ed. I did. He lives in one of the 3 Montecito homes. One of the unfortunate minors.
Sorry.
This is how this one.
I'm the one that asked about this partner for a while. I was asking
You manage all the timing stuff well, by the way.
Next part, quick.
You did good with that.
Tell me, you lie. We mean lie. We won't get through the next part quick.
I live in the East. I get a car. So I actually kind of live
Take care.
Where
night.
in a little airport community. Farmer,
Are we going to go back?
Yeah.
Are you here to have a hand?
Yeah, I have it on my list.
I'm listening. All right. No one else. I heard the gavel.
Trying to
Sit my
see what I
butt back
can say.
down, buddy. I understand.
All right, if you're leaving, please leave. If not, have a seat. We are going to get back underway.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I want to know if we can increase the budget for candy. Get a better selection. As long as I'm going to get a sugar high, I'd like to get some higher end candy.
Is it, you want higher end or just more?
That too.
Higher end.
All right, we're all still good, right?
More Butterfinger.
We're recording, everything's still good?
Yep.
All right. Under public hearings and possible actions, we are on agenda item number 6.
Get the most comfortable chairs up front row.
The Lago Vista City Council is holding a public hearing to consider an ordinance of the City Council of Lago Vista, Texas, amending Section 10 of Chapter 14, the zoning ordinance, to modify the procedural and substantive requirements related to approvals of a planned development district and providing for related matters. And I will open the public hearing at 9:39 p.m. Welcome, you late arrivals. Roy, I'm going to turn this over for your introduction.
Yeah, I'd like to take credit for this, but I didn't do much. But it makes a lot of sense, particularly, in our jurisdiction compared to the jurisdictions I've worked in before. One of the hesitancies has been, and the difficulties we've had with PDD approvals, is the hesitancy on the part of the applicants or the property owners to invest the kind of money to develop the level of detail that we would really, feel most comfortable with for these kind of approvals. What this does is allow them to split it up into two halves, so to speak. One of which has a rudimentary, what was referred to as a concept plan, but one that simply allows you guys to, give them feedback and say, look, you're on the right track. Go ahead. Now spend a lot of money on design professionals and develop the level of detail that you're really supposed to have before you approve a PDD. And just for an example, I don't know if you guys even use the original PDD that we were just looking at, the one that I marked in red. Mm-hmm. You don't see that sort of thing, and it's probably not sufficient for that thing to have been approved the way it is as a PDD. But yet that's what was approved at one point in time around here. We'd like to go further. You've seen the ones that are more recent. I could list a few. We even distribute them to people to see what's going on. But what this does is it allows, a certain level of entitlement to occur before they invest the money and go further down the wrong track. I think it makes quite a bit of sense for this jurisdiction.
All right.
Gotcha.
A good example is like the R1T application we saw tonight. They're very hesitant to put a site plan together because they don't know if they're going to have the zoning that they're looking for. So this two-step process, for I understand it, will be a conditional approval on the first end on their zoning, which allows them to go back and do their site plan, then bring that to us for final approval. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir, but what I might point out, our subdivision regs as they're written now, when you go to standard zoning or, base zoning that is consistent, that's not a PDD, they are still obligated as part of the planning process to develop what's called a concept plan for anything that includes 20 or more lots. I don't know, for those of you who may remember the Gross Close concept plan, that's what's required, and it's similar to what you do, but the point being, they have the base zoning in place now. They follow those regulations, but now you get the engineering studies that, quite frankly, on that severe topography, it's difficult. I was not exaggerating when I told you that, without a lot of study, I don't know what that thing's going to yield, and I don't think anybody else does either.
Okay.
But that's what the concept plan and the subdivision planning process is for.
Thank you. Questions, comments from council?
No, I think it'd be a good addition to what we do. It will help P&Z, it will help Building and Standards Commission, it will help everybody to have a clearer understanding of what's going on.
Well, mainly it's going to affect the ability of P&Z to make decisions about the base zoning or the zoning issues that may come up.
Correct.
And then later on, it'll make it easier for us to understand what not only the concept plan is about but what the detailed plan is going to be in these developments.
I think it makes it easier for you to hold them to that higher standard.
Yeah.
In essence. And not make it difficult, development difficult.
Right.
It gives them what I call a level of predictability before they spend a lot of money.
Exactly.
Correct.
Ask Frank if he has any comments.
Frank, do you have any comments?
Yeah, P&C unanimously recommended approval, and then a couple of comments afterwards, after they voted unanimously to approve it, that they really liked it. That's all I've got to say at this point.
They did?
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Voted unanimously and said they really liked it.
Yep.
Anybody else? All right, it's a public hearing. Let's see, I do not have anybody that has signed up for this. But if there's anybody that wants to make a brief comment or ask the questions, I'll allow you to do so.
And by the way, the two-step is not, they have the option of doing it in one.
Right.
It's not mandatory.
All right. Well, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and close this public hearing at 9:44 p.m. We're at the point of council discussion and possible decision. If anybody wants to take action, I will accept a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve this two-step process. Do we have a number? No. So approve the ordinance to accept the two-step process.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I just have a question. As this reads right now, this has not been set up as an ordinance as of yet. It is?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a number on it.
Do we have a number on it?
We do, you have to look into the interior, but Sanders going to add the number if you approve.
Okay, good enough. As long as we've got a number for it, that's all I care
I
about.
got my exes in there again, but she didn't want that on the agenda anymore.
All right, any further questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion carries unanimous. We will go to agenda item number 3.
We're going back to 3.
The Lago Vista City Council is holding a public hearing to consider an ordinance of the City Council of Lago Vista, Texas, amending the official zoning map by changing the zoning district of approximately 140.025 acres out of the M.F. Campbell Survey 98, abstract number 189, located at 5315 Lowman Ford Road, from TR1 temporary restricted to R1D single family residential. This is a property It's got the little bald mountain on it that we annexed a couple of years ago. When it was annexed, it was given the TR1 temporary zoning. But before the property owner can get utilities or do anything with this property, they actually have to have a real, true, non-temporary zoning. They're looking for just a single-family zoning on this 140 acres. They're not looking, at this time, they're not looking to do anything with this. They're just wanting proper zoning. Questions, comments from council?
No, I just want to let you know that planning and zoning unanimously approved this request on January 9th.
The what? I did not. Okay, sorry. All right. At this point, I'm going to go back and open the public hearing at 9:47 p.m. And then I'm going to go back to council and say, hey, do you have any more questions? Comments?
Yeah, pretty straightforward to me.
Not yet. Frank, ask Frank if he has anything.
Frank, do you have anything?
No.
All right, this is a public hearing. And we will go to, I have one person signed up, and that is, I'll recognize Mr. Ron Smith. Remember, oh, I'm sorry, never mind. I've lost track of where I am already. You think it's getting late or something. All right, I do not have anybody signed up for number 3, but if there's anybody who would like to ask a question or comment at this time.
Darcy DeVoe, 20223 Travis. I have a question. If this gets opened up for single-family residential, does that mean single-family like one house? Or does that mean single-family, they could subdivide this and now it turns into 140 acres of small homes?
It allows them to, they could come back at a future time and ask for something further, but at this time, no.
They can't even build one house until they plant.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so they would have to plat it. There's a couple steps that need to go on. And is this the land that was supposedly having cattle on it, but they have no cattle on it?
It has that one paint horse on it. If you've
Okay.
driven down, you've seen that one paint horse.
Okay. So right now.
Has been moved.
Okay. So right now, there's just nothing on the lot, but it does back up to Loman Ford, correct? Which could potentially become commercial property if they were smart and wanted to zone it properly. They would,
Not with the R1 zoning. They would have to come back for a
they
zoning
could only
change.
go single family. So they cannot do any commercial up to Loman Ford Road.
Unless they ask for a change.
Okay.
They can't even plat without a concept plan coming in, containing as many as 20 lots.
Okay.
They're pretty much limited to single-family
So,
houses.
so this could be way off. This could be like,
Yes.
like this thing that just happened. These people, 50 years, they've been fighting the Hatfields and McCoys about it.
Yes.
And so I'm just concerned because if this becomes single-family homes at the right at the top of my street and right at the top of Loman Ford, right there, that's a bad intersection to put a bunch of houses into that little section.
Again,
It's
you're
just-
jumping the gun. too.
Right, and that's why I want to make sure. That's all I wanted to make sure was that this doesn't keep going. That's it. Thank you.
Yep.
This is the area around Mount Baldy. isn't it?
The Bald Mountain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right, at this time, I'm going to close the public hearing at 9:51 p.m. And we're at the point of council discussion and possible decision. If anybody wants to take action, I will accept a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Hearing none, there's no action taken.
No, I'll make it.
He's over here.
Yeah, how do I,
The number is 19-15-45R REZ, is that the number?
She's gonna fill in the number if you approve.
Okay.
Okay. All right, well, then I move that we change to R1D on the 140 acres of MF Campbell Survey 98, Abstract 189, located at 5315 Loman Ford Road.
Second.
second.
Stand by. What did you say? R1 what?
R1D.
R1D. Okay, I wanted to make sure.
That's what they asked. That's
It's
what
on
you
the
did.
deal.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I didn't hear T in there since we've talked about T so many times.
R1D.
R1D. All right.
One David.
So I've got the motion and I've got a second. Who is my second? Arch.
That's fine.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
He said yes.
You can't see it.
Gotta speak up. Oh.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion carries unanimous. All right, now we're going to number 7, action items. Discussion, consideration, I'm sorry?
No, go, trying to figure out what page it is on this deal. On the-
135.
Discussion, consideration, and possible action of funds transfer within the 2017 certificates of obligation projects to fund SCADA improvements. Let me see, I could put this over there.
What does SCADA stand for?
All right, so SCADA system, this was a CIP project with the 2017 bond proceeds. We had, was it 12 stations originally? How many was it to start with that we were doing SCADA on?
I believe so. In
It
total,
was 12,
we
and
have
we're down to just the 2,
we're 2. In total, we have 20 lift stations.
but some of them already had SCADA
Right.
before
That's what I'm
this.
saying. In total, we have 20 lift stations. We're down to 2. SCADA is system control and data acquisition, just fancy word for automation, basically. So
And we've run out of funding.
yes, sir. It's some of the things that were not estimated right back in the day is some of these lift stations here at the very end are a lot larger lift stations than the typical lift stations that we have out there. So they cost a little bit more than what's been costing us. So then well, one of the things that was not taken into account originally whenever this bond was put together was that we have all this SCADA, all this communication all coming together all in one place. Well, what's already there, you just can't handle all of it. So we're also upgrading what we already had, what they call repeaters and radios. So we're also making some of those upgrades to accommodate all this new SCADA system that we're installing.
All right, and so he's asking for some funding for these last two lift stations and the improvements to the repeaters.
Right.
58,000.
58,228.
Plus
No, I'm sorry. You're asking, how much are you asking for?
It's the 58,000 plus the accrued interest.
Okay. Do we know how much the accrued interest is?
It was an ever-changing number, so we didn't actually put the number on there.
Okay. And this money is coming from our CIP bond project number 114, which was the Camille Dawn intersection that we were looking at. We ended up putting stop signs there, which solved that problem. And the money that was set aside for that was not used. Most of that was not used. So we had some excess. And according to the 2017 bond proceeds, you cannot use any money from those projects until they've been completed and closed out. This one I do know has been completed and closed out.
And you can only use the money within those projects.
Right, the SCADA systems were inside that bond package. So this is, we do have the ability to take the money from the 114 project and put it into the SCADA project 124, project 124.
Got it.
Any questions, comments from council? Anything from Frank? I don't know if he can hear me.
Frank, you have anything?
No.
I have one real quick question. Will there be any money left over after the transfer is made? Will there be any more money left in that bond?
Mayor, what'll happen is we'll get the projects completed and we'll complete this project. So we knock out the SCADA improvements completely. And then it'll effectively drain everything out of the Dawn and Camille project. So Dawn and Camille will be zeroed. Okay. And then this one will be zeroed. If there are dollars left over, then they would stay inside of project 124 at that point. So if dollars stay inside of 124, since you're transferring everything over, then on another project, you would end up transferring from 124, if there's $100 left, to another project within that bond. Okay. So we're zeroing out Dawn and Camille effectively and putting all those dollars into this one.
124, okay. Thank you.
Anything else? All right. I'm going to go to the audience at this time, and I have it right this time. And I recognize Ron Smith.
Okay, Ron Smith, 20609 Oak Ridge. Somewhat familiar with this project. I was the one that had it added to the 2017 bond. This was a result of a lightning strike. Hit one of the lift stations. It actually happened to be a sewer issue. And once that happened, that's when we went out and sweep the entire area to find out how many we had in this condition. And that's where the number 12 came from. When we put those numbers in there, we put them in there with what we knew at the time. If we've only got one or two left, I'm looking at the financials from the end of December, and I see that you've got $23,766 still sitting in your SCADA account unless you've already processed an invoice for that. I'm wondering why you're going to the street portion of the general fund of the bond to do a utility project. That doesn't make sense to me. It looks to me like you keep water with water and general with general. I don't know why I don't think that's an appropriate use. I think it's Camille Dawn was a road project, and you're going to put it up to a utility project. I know some time ago you guys canceled a $1.3 million tower. I think it was a Butler standpipe tower. Moved it over to the sewer. That's all on the utility side. You could certainly use a piece of that if you wanted to. I just don't think you use road money to do water projects. That's where I'm coming from. So you've got some money already in the lift station and you want to go grab 58. I don't know why 58 is the magic number other than that's the amount of money left in the account. I think it'd be more prudent if we go out for bid and find out what it costs to finish those out, assuming you're going to sub it out, find out what those numbers are and transfer that within the utility portion of the bond. That's all.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
So our rational thought is the goal of the bond projects and the way this bond was written was so that each individual project needed to be closed out. We know that the street project's been closed out. The separation inside of the bonds, it turns out to be, these are all projects in the city. We can appreciate the theory of water and not water for whatever it is, but we know that the SCADA for these lift stations based on the other 10 turns out to be about $35,000. We also know that upgrading the rest of the system, which we do not have the final number on, it could be an estimate of another $25,000. So if you tie in the 58 plus the 8,000 or so interest plus the 23 or change that we have in the account, it's going to come down to be very close. That's why, going back to Councilor Davila's question, there may be a few dollars left in that account, but we'll effectively then have two of those projects zeroed out. They'll be completed projects, and as people keep pushing, why do we want to bring on new debt in our community? Well, we shouldn't bring on new debt in our management perspective until we can complete the projects that we have on the books now. And so that's our challenge, is zero these projects out and move on. And so we could pull from others. This number happens to be really close to what we need based on the estimate, and we feel we can get this completed.
All right, thank you. Is anybody else in the audience that has a question?
One final thought. Maybe you might ask the attorney if that's appropriate use of the bond money to move from general to water.
Mayor, if we want to ask our bond attorney, I could call him, but I have an email from our bond attorney based on the projects in this, and he has ruled that we can do any of those projects listed per the statement from the council.
That certainly wasn't the intention when we set the bond up.
Yeah.
I understand.
Anybody else? All right. Well, this is an action item. If anybody else, if there's no other questions,
Mr. Mayor,
I'll accept a motion at this time.
I make a motion that we transfer the funds in order to cover the SCADA project.
And zero out the two projects.
Zero out the Dawn project.
I'll second it.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion carries unanimous. And we will go to number 8. Discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding what to do with the funds received from the sale of the Highland Lakes Golf Course, amount of $515,636.40, and the Marshall's Point House, amount of $1,729,223.92. Let's see. That's up there on number 8. All right, so as you know, we sold the Highland Lakes Golf Course in January of last year. The funds received were the amount that I just mentioned, and those funds have been deposited into the utility fund reserve account at the moment. We sold the Marshall's Point House in December of last year, and those funds have been deposited into the real estate account.
And that's a new account that's been created, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, and based on council request, we are discussing and considering where these funds should be placed at this time. And Josh, do you have anything you would like to add to this?
No, sir.
Questions, comments, thoughts, directions?
Mr. Mayor, as the city manager, and I know that we just paid like $209,000 for the work that's being done on our sports complex. Do we have funds to cover the next steps that are going to be taking place there?
Mayor, we haven't appropriated the second round of funds for the sports complex. We have the first round of basically $1.5 million. The council's already appropriated those funds. I don't believe we've appropriated the next round of funding. Not to mention, if the total project now stands at $4 million, we're at 1.5, basically down. We'll still have 2.5 left. So what our challenge is as we're moving forward to get that phase of the project wrapped up and then see what the next phase the project cost will be. So, no, sir.
Okay. Do we need extra funding in there to be able to apply for any of the grants or funding from other organizations?
Mayor, I think the good thing is at some point, we're going to want to appropriate funds into the park fund. It doesn't have to happen now. We just need to be able to, if we apply for grants, we need to be able to say, if it's a matching grant, that the city has the ability to match those funds based out of dollars in it would be general fund reserve. And so it doesn't matter where it's at. The good thing is anytime you park dollars into a fund, then they're successfully there and earmarked for that specific use.
So my thoughts on this, we've got one's in a reserve account, one's in a real estate account. I'm questioning, do we actually need to do anything with this money right now at this time? I would like us to go, because looking at this package, I really don't know what my options are. So I'm thinking that we leave it where it is at this moment. We go back and we look at our options to include our bonds that we are paying on. I think when we were discussing this I think it was during the budget cycle, we had identified a few of our bond debt that we could pay down with this, that we would not be incurring penalties on. So I think that is one option we really need to look at. And then we get to our CIP projects going into next fiscal year, and we look at the whole package, what we're looking to do, whether it's a water thing, whether it's street maintenance, and then we try and see the remainder of this. Where can we best use this to the benefit of the city as far as CIP? I mean, if we can put this into water CIP and help. We've got this water rate study that's just completed that has factored in some of the CIPs and has recommended some increases in the rates over the next few years. If we can offset some of that for a couple of years by using this money on CIP projects and not having to look at our water rates, I think that's an option.
I thought we were hard up against the bonds. I thought we were hard up against the remaining bonds, that all of them would cost us something.
It always costs you something.
I don't know if all of them are that way. That's kind of why I would like to, all of them? Okay.
2026. I think 2026 is the earliest that we can pay down that.
Okay, I was thinking we had some that were like a couple of $100,000 or something that.
We paid all those off.
We paid it off.
Okay, well, so that may not be an option. But,
I think for right
I mean,
now,
right now.
leave it where it is.
Just park 'em.
Yeah, right now, I just don't, I would like to see council come up with some options. I'd like to see staff come up with some options. I'm sure there's people in the audience that's going to have some options that we should consider, and at this point, I think, I just don't know that we're there to take action on this just yet.
Okay.
And is there any reason why this money cannot stay in the accounts that they're in at the moment?
Mayor, definitely not. One of the things why we presented this back to council is because it was discussed, it was requested that we have this discussion in open meeting on 3 different meetings. And so we presented it back to council. No problem leaving the funds where they're at right now. Going back to Mayor Pro Tem's question, it looks like the number to complete phase 2 is approximately $400,000, phase 2 of the sports complex. Theoretically, that's a space for money coming from somewhere, whether that's from there or the sale of candy, whatever it is, we've got to come up with $400,000 at some point. But going back to your comment, Mayor, the easy thing for us to do from your request is, your direction, is to prepare those items within the budget process, print those out, and then let council look at it as a total body in terms of how to appropriate funds where you need it. So we can definitely use your direction there and bring that back. I just didn't want to miss the opportunity to have it on the council agenda, since we stated we would present this out here, and I don't want someone thinking that the money's not where we've said it is. So now, since it's on the agenda, we've clearly stated the dollars are sitting in those accounts. So if anyone looks at the monthly statements now moving forward, they should be able to see dollars in those amounts in those accounts.
Got it.
And we know they will not be touched.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Because they can't be touched unless we give direction.
Unless you allocate it somewhere. So we'd have to go to a council meeting to allocate funds and to move it from one to the other. So yes, sir.
All right.
I think that was the best point to make at this time, that we can't haphazardly just go do something. I mean, based on your comments earlier in the council meeting, that staff doesn't have that ability to go in there and decide to spend 1.729 million just because it's sitting there.
Correct. Okay.
Anything else? Frank, you have any questions, comments?
Mayor,
Yes.
I generally agree with the points you're making, and I think what I heard from the city manager was that he might be doing those options as part of the budget. Did I catch that correctly?
Yes.
Question, then. Can any of this money be spent out? For instance, what can you spend the real estate fund for?
Mayor, and
Anything?
yeah, so Mayor, the real estate account, it's not a real estate fund, so the real estate account is part of the general fund. So it's a general fund expenditure. The utility reserve account is a utility account. So the dollars in utility would obviously go to utility items. The dollars in the general fund could go on any item. So at this time, we park it in the real estate account based on the direction of council that we will not spend those dollars except on real estate unless they're moved out of that account. That's a good point.
I think the backup said fund, but you're describing it as an account, correctly? Correct?
Correct. So the staff summary reads that the funds for the house were deposited into the real estate account. And that's the point. I think you're making that.
I just wasn't familiar with the real estate fund, but I am with the real estate account. So in any case, I agree with the mayor's point.
And that's the point, Mayor, that I hope people understand when we're saying the difference between funds and account. And that's why we capitalized the one there to say this is an account that we set up just like we would set up a project account. CIP funds have allocation and they're restricted. So real estate account is just our ability to monitor the purchasing and selling of real property by the city. So it's our accounting method that we've created as a city.
All those little slices of land that was put into the real estate account.
Yes, sir. And that's that ability to track so that we know how we're being effective or not effective in that process.
Okay.
Anybody else? All right, I will go to the audience at this moment, and I will recognize Ron Smith.
Okay, Ron Smith, 20609 Oak Ridge. Over the past several weeks, with the permission of Josh, I met with Star concerning the paying down of the debt. A couple of things that I discovered through that process was when we sold the Highland Lakes golf course, those proceeds were put into the general fund because that was the only fund we had at the time. Probably within 30 days of that, Josh had split the accounts between a utility fund reserve and a general fund reserve. And so where my question came in is, well, where did the $500,000 land? Did it land on the utility side or did it land on the general side? I've been told it's in the utility side now, and I'm not going to quarrel with that. A couple of things I think the council should know, especially when you start dealing with bonds, you run into some unique situations. For example, on the Otwell house, the one that we purchased for $3.7 million, that was a 2-year interest-only, 5-year balloon payment on a 7-year note. And of course, at the time, Mayor Kruger thought we could flip that house pretty quick. And therefore, he was trying to keep the interest rates real low so we could flip the house and then we could get out from underneath the loan before the balloons kicked in. Easier said than done. So what happened was once we got to the balloon payment time, we refinanced it. Unbeknownst to anybody on the council at that time is that when you refinance, it pretty much locks you with all these prepayments on there. So all these bonds that had been, quote, refinanced, well, we made $300,000 on there. We blocked ourselves from clearing some notes. So as you think forward in time to if you do let out some bonds in the future, understand, just don't be so quick to jump for a $300,000 savings on a refinance and block yourself for 20 years when you've got half the money to pay it down with and get your, at least half that interest back. I mean, not only the principal, but you get the carrying cost of it as well. Okay. So that's what happened, is we didn't realize it at the time. But when we're forced into the balloons, we couldn't afford the $800,000 hit. We didn't have that much slop in it because the growth hadn't hit yet at that time. So the 2017 bond, I understand that's the only bond you really got to do. And that won't even come up till what, 2029, I believe it is, February 2029. So we're pretty much locked on all the bonds right now as far as prepayment, unless you want to pay the prepayments. So anyway, that was really the comment I wanted to make sure y'all understood. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Now, he's the only one I had signed up. Is there anybody else that has a comment or question? All right.
Mayor, just want to clarify one point on that, and Mr. Smith is correct in terms of when we split a reserve account into the two specific accounts, we made sure that there's a general fund reserve and there's a utility fund reserve, and the split coincided with the audit. So the numbers going into general fund reserve came directly from the audit, which at the time put us at $2-point-something million, and then the utility fund reserve at the time put us at approximately $700,000. So that's where the audit numbers come from, so that we clear the reserve account. A lot of people like to use just one, you can't use the word general, one streamlined reserve fund so that you put all reserve dollars into one. Mm-hmm. But our goal is to separate everything so that there's the clear accounting. It follows basically what Mr. Smith's saying, so you can follow these things over time more efficiently and no one has to go to the audit, just like we're going to have presented to us in a few weeks. Trying to follow that sometimes gets a little crazy. So if we let people look at those items monthly, then they're able to say, oh, look, the general fund and utility fund reserves have this amount of money every single month, and they can track it monthly. It's an attempt at the accountability that we keep talking about, and it's just one more step to try and keep the numbers out there.
Got it.
All right.
So there's no action we have to take on this, huh?
Well, at this time, if nobody has anything, it is an action item. If anybody wants to take action, we can. I'll accept a motion. If I do not get a motion, then there will be no action taken.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we keep the funds in where they are. The golf course funds in the utilities and the Otwell House in the real estate account.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second to leave the funds in the accounts that they are currently in. Any further discussion? I have a thing. Moving forward, can we just call it the Marshall Point House? Do we have to call it the Otwell House anymore?
Mayor, I think the staff summary calls it
Who owns it now? What are the names?
the Pearson House.
It's the Pearson House.
The Pearson House. All right. All right, that's my only comment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion carries unanimous. All right, we are on the consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are to be considered routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion on these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Tonight, we are considering the approval of the December 19th, 2019 and the January 2nd, 2020 regular council meeting minutes. The agreement between the city, number 11, the agreement between the city and the farmers market, and number 12, the contract for the reconstruction of the greens at the Lago Vista golf course. Questions, comments?
Good to go.
No? Frank have anything? No?
No.
All right, is there anybody from the audience who would like to comment or ask a question on the consent agenda? All right. At this moment,
Mr. Mayor.
yes, I will recognize Darcy DeVoe.
Darcy, hi, are you voting on all this or something right now?
Yes,
Okay, so on all three of them?
Yes.
So you're just going to
consent
group them all
agenda.
together and?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
yes.
And go home.
All right. At this time, I will accept a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I make motion that we accept the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, consent agenda is passed unanimous. All right. You can't leave now.
Sorry to make you wait so long.
You've stayed this long, you have to wait the remaining 10 minutes.
We give out badges.
All right, number 13, the city manager report.
No report, Mayor.
No report. All right, 14 is done already. Future meetings. Consider our schedule and items for future council meetings. Anybody have anything?
Mayor, I do want to point out that I sent an email to council earlier that we're going to discuss the property adjacent to the police department. We're going to have that on the March 6th council agenda. And so we'll, as soon as we get a plan and a couple items together, we'll take that and we'll send that out, and then we'll post that information on the city website. If we can have it by next week, then we'll put it on the website, even though the meeting we'll consider is not until March 6th. So that's an item that I've got on the 6th.
The next council meeting will be March 5th.
March 5th.
So, Mr. Mayor, both,
Whatever that first Thursday in March is.
so Councilman Davila and myself will probably be
Missing.
out of town and Skyping in on this.
On the 20th?
No, March.
On the 5th.
Oh, that
March
first one
5th.
in March. Okay. But our next one is the 20th. Is everybody going to be here? Everybody going to be here on the 20th?
Grit thy teeth. Yeah.
All right. It's going to be exciting.
March the 5th, you may not have a quorum.
We'll see.
You want to postpone it for a week?
I'm going to be in Branson, Missouri.
I don't know if citizens can request future agenda items, but I really think this council needs to get a debrief on the CIP not later than end of June. As you go into your budget cycle, the last time we did one of those was in June of 2017. So some of you have been here for an entire term and you haven't even gone through the CIP. You're going to be looking at CIPs and funding of those CIPs in the future. I think it'd be a good idea. That gives a chance for the staff to get 2 or 3 months to pull that information together. But I really think you need to go through it literally line by line
Right.
on there and have whoever your CIP coordinator is take care of.
Didn't we start to do that review last year?
Yeah, Mayor, we actually do that monthly where we present that update and get that information out monthly now.
Thank you. So, who all's not going to be here on 1st of March?
I don't think I'm going to be here on the 5th.
We're going to be in TML.
TML.
That's 3. That's
Got 4, you're in.
Still a quorum.
And if they are on,
But we don't know about the two that aren't
Will
here
you be here
today.
March 5th, Frank?
Yes.
All right, we'll address it again in February, at the February 20th meeting if we need to. This is for future meetings in our schedule.
Yeah. That's what it was about. When you do the thing for the 5th, when you're going to present what you want to do next at the police station, have you done an impact study of what it's going to do to the homeowners around the area?
no,
Okay. Have you done anything on the real estate value in the area?
we don't do that at all in the city.
Okay. So, okay, thank you. But to the golf course you did? correct?
I have not.
Okay.
Never have I done a real estate study in this city or any city
Okay.
that I've worked on.
All right. At this time, let's see, where am I at? I think I'm done, am I not? Executive session. We don't have anything else, we don't have a reason to go to executive. All right, I will call this meeting adjourned at 10:26 PM.
Pretty good. Good meeting.
I'm sweating my butt off in here. I'm way overdressed.
Hey, Darcy. Darcy, I will email it directly to you and to Dan and to Miss Mummy.